Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Marquee. We are the Cinefanatics. My name is Robert Adams.
I'm Chris Adams.
And we are here tonight to rank some Pixar movies in celebration of Lightyear being released to the movie theaters. We figured this would be a good time to just rank all, how many movies are there? 26?
I'm sorry, did you say to the movie theaters or to Infinity and Beyond?
26. It was to Infinity and Beyond. Thank you for correcting me, sir. Anyways,
I'm here.
As we get started, y'all know how YouTube works, the YouTube things. Thank y'all for being here watching us as we get started. Y'all know how it goes. Streamlabs.com/cinefanatics. Y'all have any questions, comments, issues with our selection and where we're going to put things? If you would like to yell at any one of us, that is the best way to get our view, because there's a lot of movies we got to pump through, and it's going to be fast, furious to that Infinity and Beyond or whatever it is that my brother just said. So yeah, if you want to get our attention, streamlabs.com/cinefanatics. And real quick, if you have the means to help us out, patreon.com/cinefanatics. We got some great tiers, great stuff coming up on there. This coming Monday, if you're a part of our Maverick tier, you could join us for our movie trivia hangout night. It's going to be this coming Monday night. It's a lot of fun, just some nice, good movie trivia questions, relaxing, chill. If you have to study for any kind of a movie trivia quiz or show or anything, it's a good way to do that too. So hop on that, patreon.com/cinefanatics. Anyways, as we get this show going, I'd like to introduce our guests for tonight. We reached out to two people who I think are pretty strong experts at Pixar. So we got special guests with us. Starting up first, we're going to go with Egg Lord Nikki. How are you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing wonderfully, and thank you guys so much for having me on. My brand is a couple things. It's pink, it's Novas, it's eggs, but Pixar is definitely a big part of that. I actually bought this beautiful handbag recently from the Disney store because I'm crazy and obsessed. But I'm very excited to put that obsession to use today.
Awesome. And also joining us would be Clay, the Flying Cow. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Good. I'm excited to do this. I was so excited when you guys invited me to do this that I've rewatched every Pixar film that I was able to. So yeah,
so it's a lot of Pixar.
25 movies in 2 weeks.
Oof. Yeah. Jeez, that's commitment right there. Make sure you know what you're talking about when it comes time to rank these movies. So with that being said, let's kick things off. Before we get to the actual marquee, I'm kind of curious. I'm pretty sure I know my brother's answers. Oh wait, you're over here now. I'm pretty sure I know my brother's answers. So I know it's kind of weird. Nikki, I'm going to start with you. What was the first Pixar movie you saw?
In terms of what I can remember, because I think I'm the youngest one here. I was 1 when Toy Story came out. So, but the one that I have memories of seeing very firmly is definitely Toy Story 2. And I'm pretty sure, I wouldn't be surprised if I saw the other two before it, but that one I just have such a vivid memory of it. It's just, I don't know if I either watched it a bunch of times or just once, but it's just so etched in my brain. So I'm going to go with that.
Okay. Clay, same question.
I was 13 when the original Toy Story came out. So that was actually the first Pixar film that I saw. I will say, though, I didn't see one in the theater until Monsters, Inc.
Good one to do, though.
Okay, so with what he just said, that now puts me knowing that me and Clay are pretty close in age, because I think I'm probably 1 year older.
Yeah, about the same. Yeah.
Chris, I'm almost certain I know what yours was.
Actually 12. I'm rounding up.
Oh, okay. Chris, I'm almost certain I know what yours was, because you were the perfect age to go see the first Toy Story in the theater.
Yep, that was a movie that was built for me. 95, I was probably 6, so
6, yeah,
5 or 6, depending on when it came out during the year. But yeah, Toy Story is my movie. I watched that thing over and over again as a kid. not to spoil where you think I'm going to end up putting it, but let's be honest, that is my movie. That's my childhood. So yeah, I grew up with Pixar. Pixar's been my backbone since forever.
Yeah. I'm going to have to say that the first one was also Toy Story for me.
Because you're old.
Because I was like 14 when it came out. So I'm almost certain I saw that in the theater, probably with you, and I don't remember. So anyways, yeah, so that's everyone's first one. So nice. I typically would have asked like, what's your favorite one? But I'm almost certain we're going to figure out what your favorite one is through the course of this ranking. So we'll get to that. And also because I didn't want to like give anyone like really like any hints as to where these movies could go. Because obviously, if you say like Ratatouille is your favorite movie, you're very likely probably going to argue for S tier for Ratatouille. So that being said, let's get to the rules for the game tonight before we get to the marquee. So we got another special guest with us tonight, and to share, to let us know what the rules of the game tonight are, let's bring out Johnny. Johnny, what are the rules?
Thank you, Robert, you cheesecake motherfucker. We're doing the rules tonight, and the rules are here. We got a limit of 6 films for the S tier, limit of 4 films for the other tiers, and if you don't agree with those or you can't understand what I'm saying, make your ears quicker and shut up.
Oh, thanks, Johnny. Hey, Johnny, real quick, how's your wife and kids?
If you paid me more, you would get that kind of information. But until then, it's none of your damn business.
Huh. Well, thank you, Johnny. Johnny's such a great character, isn't he? I love Johnny.
That guy. Okay.
So anyways, yeah, that's going to be the rules for tonight. 6 movies in the S tier, 4 in the others. It's a hard, fast rule because otherwise, what's the point? So yeah, with that being said, no one's got questions. Everyone in the chat here for us? Yeah. Nerds like, was it 6 for S tier? Yeah, there's 26 movies. So, I mean, 6 in S tier is huge. One other thing, thank you, Nerd, for reminding me of this. The other thing I want to get across to make sure everyone understands before we get into this, Pixar is like that series of movies that is very personal to people. A lot of people have very personal connections to certain movies. For example, I do like cooking. I'm going to be more prone to probably ranking Ratatouille higher than, say, my brother who doesn't like to cook. That kind of stuff is going to happen in this. So everyone watching, please keep that in mind, that we all have personal connections to some of these movies. Someone may really like Bugs. They're going to like Bugs Life. Some of us don't. That's going to happen. Just keep that in mind. This is probably going to be the most like hottest take, most personal ranking we've done out of all the marquee rankings that we've done so far. And I cannot wait to see the carnage.
Well,
so
your takes anyway.
Do what?
Your takes are hot anyway.
Okay, sure. That being said, let's go ahead and bring out Carl. Carl, are you ready? Thank you, Carl, for getting it right the first time this time. That's first take Carl right there. He's a good man. Anyways, Carl and Johnny must be like drinking buddies or something. I don't know. Anyways, this is the marquee board. Again, if y'all are not familiar with how tier ranking works, we're going to rank these movies one at a time. S is the highest, the ultimate. What does the S stand for? I forgot, like superb?
It stands for the super god level.
Okay, sure. And then F, well, F stands for a word that we're not going to say on a kid's show. Unless Johnny says it accidentally.
Yeah, cut that out, Johnny.
That being said, if you really do feel very strongly about those movies, please feel free to use whatever words you feel like you need to convey that idea. So, and Cal's like, nope, F this, I'm out of here. Cal will come back. So we are going to kick things off, starting with the very first movie on the list. And luckily tonight, to keep this simple, we're going to go in order of release, which means right off the bat, Toy Story, or however he sings it.
You're trying to do like a Randy Newman thing there?
I'm not trying. I am doing a Randy Newman thing there. Thank you. Nikki, we're going to start with you. What do you like about Toy Story, and where do you want to put it?
I mean, I do love this movie. It's obviously a classic. It's the first one. It was very revolutionary at the time. It introduces us to like the first batch of colorful characters in all Pixar movies. Woody is probably, even though he's kind of a jerk off in this movie, he's my favorite Pixar character, period. I like it a lot, and even though I probably shouldn't hold against it so much, the animation obviously doesn't age as well as a lot of other movies. I've seen a lot of side-by-sides for this and Toy Story 4, and it's insane the difference. Also, I hate Potato Head in this movie. He is such an a-hole for no reason and is basically not like taken to task for it, even though Woody is. But you know, I still really enjoy it though. I'm sorry, do we say the tier right now?
Your personal,
you can.
Where you like it, yeah.
For me, this is like a lower end of the top 10. I kind of go more A.
Okay, right out the gate. Clay, where would you put it? Or what do you feel about it? Where would you put it?
Sure. So yeah, I agree with Nikki, honestly, on a lot of things. I think this is a good, solid film. I think though that one of the main reasons I would put it higher are because it was one of the first. You know, but you know, Nikki's also got the point of, you know, when you compare it animation wise, you know, it's obviously the weakest, but it came out in 95, so it's completely understandable. Honestly, though, I will say in my rewatch, from Bug's Life to Toy Story 2, it's like two completely different styles. It's insane. But as far as my ranking, I honestly think that anybody that ranks this as their favorite Toy Story film is probably watching it through nostalgia goggles. I'm putting this on B.
Ooh, wow.
I think it's good. I think I've never had as much nostalgia for it as anybody else. So,
all right, Chris.
Hi. Yes, my name is Nostalgia Goggles. This is an S tier movie.
Did you feel the need to elaborate on that?
Yeah. So first of all, I mean, we talk about the animation. Let's be clear about this. In 1995, that animation was incredible. This was way beyond its time. I think even now, like we just did the rewatch for the Patreon. We just did our movie watch along, and even then, like maybe like Disney Plus, I think is probably like up converting it to some degree, but the movie itself actually, I felt like it looked really good. Now, granted, obviously, as Nikki was saying, there's going to be a difference between that and like later installments, just because Pixar has gotten more technology available to it in order to animate and do stuff with. But for 1995, this movie actually is pretty dang great. Story-wise, I think it's pretty tight. There's obviously a couple like plot holes, but I mean that I think just fits in line with most Disney movies, you know, pre the new century, the new millennium or whatever. So I think there's a lot of the fact of the matter is it's got a lot of charm to it. Voice acting on top of the game. Everybody is coming to play. They play hard. They do such a great job in this movie. But otherwise, I think this is just there's a reason Pixar is where it's at, and it's because they started with such a well-made, tight film.
So S tier.
S tier for me. Yeah.
Okay. So me personally, again, coming from the point of view of like personally connecting to it, I like this just because right out the gate, this was probably the smartest move that Pixar could do. If they were looking at a list of ideas of movies, this was probably the best one because number one, we have all played with toys when we were kids. We all had toys. We all used our imaginations to create.
Some still play with toys as adults.
Yeah, some of us. Like we've all experienced that. This is a movie that reaches every single person because we've all done that. Everyone. whether you're imagining it's the character who it is, like if it's an action figure, or you're imagining it's another character, like I think like in Toy Story they name Mr. Potato Head like One-Eyed Bart or something like that. It's something that you connect with on a very deep personal level. We all wish at some point that we could just like, yeah, Robert wants a Hot Toy Story. Yeah, you're right. That Hot Toys Lightyear that's coming out looks fantastic. We all want that ability to go back and play with toys. It's a significant, it's a reminder of a simple time, a nice, easy, happy time. And we would all like that, especially as adults having to deal with our lives now. It's not as fun. I love it for the nostalgia of it. I love it for the personal connection. And again, it's the OG. I would rank this as the highest of S tiers easily. So that being said, we're gonna have to move. This is gonna be interesting where this one's gonna go.
While you're doing that, I would like to make sure that we all highlight and note that Nikki said Woody is a jerk off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like trying to hear the line if I like how much do I want to curse, and then that was like my halfway, like I want to say jerk, but I also want to go harder than that. And it was wrong. That was definitely the wrong word.
Okay, so
I will say, Nikki, you said you don't know why Potato Head is such a jerk. I have a theory for that.
I mean, I know why. I have heard theories of why he is. I just don't like that he is. But
sure.
Go ahead.
I honestly think that because they said that Woody has been Andy's favorite since kindergarten. I mean, sure, that's probably, but I think he took Potato Head's spot. I think in preschool, Potato Head was his number one toy.
I always thought Potato Head was a jerk because his ass opens up and you shove his face and clothes and everything in it. But I mean, that's just my theory.
Either of them are good. I'm good with it.
Yeah, but Mrs. Potato Head is perfectly fine.
Her ass opens up also.
Okay, so basically what we have
Potato
here...
Head's face in Mrs. Potato Head. Anyways, that's beside the point. So yeah, it looks like probably A would be a good average place for this. Probably a higher A, but again, at the end of this, we're gonna go through and like see if we want to maybe change our opinion on where things go.
So we got two of us are ranking it the highest in the S tier, one in B, one in A.
Yeah. So yeah, it's probably gonna be the highest of A as of right now. So, anyways, moving on to our next one.
I already quit.
Bug's Life. Yeah. For Bug's Life, we're going to go to Clay to start us off. What do you think of Bug's Life, and where would you like to stick it?
A Bug's Life. This is one of those films that is also that. Well, no, not also. This is one of those films that of the earlier Pixars gets talked down the most. And I will say I really enjoy this film. I especially enjoy that they basically do a Pixar version of Seven Samurai. So there's a lot to enjoy about this film. But when I objectively look at the earliest Pixar, I do think it's the weakest of the earliest Pixar. So I'm actually going to rank this as a C.
Okay. It's good. Chris?
This is another one. Toy Story, I think, has the most nostalgia goggles of all of them. I don't have as much nostalgia over A Bug's Life, even though, still a youngster when it came out, so still have a connection to this in childhood, especially because I'm pretty sure I had all the McDonald's toys from it, which was actually pretty dope. They were actually really cool. This is back when McDonald's toys were really awesome.
This is also back when I worked at McDonald's, so I was able to make sure you got them all.
Yeah. Had to hook up. That being said, while I do think it's a good movie, while I do love it, do enjoy it, Clay is right. It is probably the weaker of the earlier Pixar movies. It's got great characterization, awesome. Like all the characters have such great personalities. I loved it. But for me, I believe I have it. Let me think. It's S. It's A. I believe I have it mid B tier. So mid anywhere. Honestly, anywhere in the B tier. If it ends up at the lower end of the B tier, I'm perfectly fine with that too. But that's kind of B for bugs.
Chris, do you know the answer to this?
Shut up, Garth.
was that Danny DeVito? No. It's
Dennis Leary.
That would be Dennis Leary. Yeah, knew it. Anyways, so you're putting it where?
B tier.
B. So Clay's got C, you've got B. Here's the thing with Bug's Life. I always kind of thought this movie was boring. Like I understand it. I understand it's like it's a take. Yeah, and I completely forgot the Seven Samurai connection there. Also, I haven't seen Seven Samurai, so I need to watch that. But yeah, I know. I always thought of it as like also a take of the whole like Aesop fables, Grasshopper and the Ant. So I mean, it's kind of loosely connected to that as well. Which that story I was so ingrained in that by the time they did Bug's Life, I was like, this isn't really adding anything. I mean, the other circus bugs and whatnot, sure, but like Heimlich, I feel like was the only one that was really entertaining on that. I love Heimlich in it, but the rest of them this movie just feels very blah to me. So Toy Story was my first one saying to put it in S. This is gonna be the first one I'm gonna say put it in F. Again, there's some of these movies have to go into F. There's got to be 4 for the F tier. So
hard disagree.
All right, Nikki, where do you want to put it?
I'm so sorry, but I pretty much agree with everything Robert just said. I'm sorry. I'll admit it's been a year since I've rewatched it, but I truly think I maybe laughed once. Here's the thing. It's a totally solid movie. I don't even think it's bad. I think it's decent. But like, again, I think The Troop is by far the most entertaining part. And I'm like, probably as a member, I think everyone's performances are pretty great, but like, there's nothing like from it that I can really quote off the top of my head, except maybe Heimlich or Francis yelling something. And the grasshoppers I think are fairly good menacing villains, but at the same, again, nothing about really, I have no nostalgia for it, obviously, as I mentioned before, and I just really don't feel strongly. And honestly, it's only F, but it's probably like going to be top of F. Maybe this is tough. I have to go like top of F for me personally, but like just only because, again, everything else is just so great that we're going to be talking about later. That's the main reason any of these movies are going to F. I'm so sorry.
How dare you guys put down the great Dave Foley?
His best role was Sky High. Let's be clear. I remember
that was Dave Foley as Flick, wasn't it?
I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that.
So on the average, I'm gonna say this is probably gonna be D.
Yeah, that's fair.
Nerd. I'm sorry, Nerd. This makes me
probably
sad.
D.
Yeah. Anyways, so moving on, we've got the next one is gonna be Toy Story 2. Chris, we start with you.
Toy Story 2. Okay, well, so here's the thing. We see I wanted to put Toy Story 1 in S tier. Toy Story 2 is another one. Again, I was still the right age for this. I think this was what, 2000?
99.
Right? This was 99?
Yep.
Dang. 1 year off. So I have a lot of good memory on this one because I do remember seeing this one in the theater. I know that I saw the first Toy Story in the theater. I was young. I don't remember that time in the theater anymore. I do remember seeing this one in the theater. I do remember, once again, my brother having worked at McDonald's. The great story here is waking up one morning to literally all of the Toy Story 2 McDonald's toys laid out for me. So, yes, there's going to be some nostalgia behind this one as well. This is a rare sweet moment between. This is a rare sweet. Yeah, you don't remember that?
No.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a rare sweet moment between the brothers. Otherwise, I think he's a dirty son of a. Never mind. I can't talk about our mom that way. So, shut up. This one I actually do enjoy. I think the story is great. I think they add a lot of like really good plot and backstory to Woody and the origination of him being a part of a like 50s era black and white kids show. And I love the twist with Pete being the bad guy here, and introduction of is it Jane? Is that right? Why am I blanking on her name now? It's Jane.
You're in the right ballpark.
It's not Jane.
No.
Jesse.
Whatever.
Talking about
Jesse. God dang it.
Jesse?
Hey, we're doing it live. Don't worry about it. Dennis Leary played Francis.
In your defense, I do think.
Nope. Yeah. Anyway, so I really enjoyed this movie. I did. It's not in the S tier for me. I still think the first Toy Story is better, and that again might just be nostalgia talking here, because there is a lot of like really good plot to this one that I think adds to the lore of Toy Story essentially. But this is top of A tier for me. This is not S tier.
Interesting. Okay. So for this one, this was a fun Toy Story movie. Definitely it's nowhere near as good as the original. I do kind of feel like, and maybe if I was a kid again, I'd have a different opinion, but now looking back on it, I feel like this one was just made just because of how popular the first one was. The very stereotypical, the first one was good, we have to make a second one because let's keep this money train going. But it was made without really adding too much. Like the extra characters, I don't feel like add that much depth. It's nice that we get Woody's like background and backstory, and it's not introduced like 30 years later in its own movie. But yeah, that one was sad. But I don't feel like it doesn't add too much more to it. I feel like the sequels, Toy Story 3 and 4, were so much better at adding a whole new depth and heart to the Toy Story gang and story. So yeah, I'm not huge on this one, but I still respect it for what it is. This would be like a low A for me. So, Nikki.
I strongly agree with you on Bug's Life. I couldn't disagree with you more on this. Look, I'll admit, like I said, I have very fond memories of this as a kid, but every time I have rewatched this, even as an adult, like, it has never faltered for me. Not once. This is a personal top 3 Pixar for me. Not even exaggerating. I love this. I disagree with the concept that it doesn't add to the lore. We got the bare bones basics of like their world as toys in the first one. It's expanded in this, like with the idea of like, well, what happens when kids grow up? What happens when they don't want their toys anymore? Oh, and then we get like a good look into that. Jessie, by all intents and purposes, really could have been the most annoying character ever, but she has depth to her. And I'm not even going to say this movie is perfect because it certainly isn't, but there's so much I love that it does add to it. I certainly think Potato Head's more enjoyable in it. I think his dynamic with Mrs. Potato Head is pretty damn cute. I love the sequence of the doll repair guy who comes in and just those little details when he's fixing Woody up. It's like, that's such a great sequence. Al and Pete, by all means, like, they're just these schlubby guys who like should be hate things, but you know what? They're actually a little bit funny and interesting when Al's like, "Oh, I have to drive to work," and then he drives across the street, and it's like, it's such a, like, that's probably a dumb joke. I love that kind of humor. I just love this movie so much. It's an easy S tier for me.
I would like to note why Potato Head probably calmed down between the first and second movie. It's because by the second movie, well, he got himself a woman in his life. Just saying. You let your imagination run wild.
Yeah. So he was carrying her purse and all of her stuff in his. Never mind. Clay,
let your imagination run wild.
Clay, what do you think of this movie?
Honestly, I'm right there with Nikki. Toy Story 2 is actually my favorite Toy Story film. Even though I think that Toy Story 3 is probably objectively a better film, Toy Story 2 has always been my favorite. And part of that I realized on this rewatch is because my favorite character in the Toy Story franchise is Jessie. Because Jessie is a character. This was the first Pixar film to make me cry because of the character of Jessie. Jessie is a character who is introduced as a character struggling with PTSD. She struggles with anxiety and PTSD, and this is a character trait that they continue on throughout the franchise. And I love that they don't just drop that for her. And like I said, I mean, they almost completely forget about her in 4, but they do make some things. But I think that's one of the reasons that Toy Story 2 is my favorite, because we get the most of her. We get the most introduction to her story. And we also get the fact that these are not things that go away for her. So even though, you know, she can be treated. Okay, sorry, I went away for a second. But yeah, Toy Story 2 for me, S tier.
Yes. Okay. So we've got 2 S's and 2 in the A's. So that means it's either going to be high A or low S.
It almost seems like it's going right next to the original Toy Story in some capacity.
So here's the thing for this. I would be a little hesitant to throw it in S, just because not all of us agree that would go to S. How do we feel sticking it in A, but how do y'all feel putting it above or below the first Toy Story? Keep in mind that we just got this show started and people are going to be clicking on it and they're going to see, oh, you're ranking Toy Story 2 above Toy Story 1. Later.
Yeah.
No.
Well, that's their problem.
We are. We are.
Welcome to the show.
I mean, Toy Story 1 is like the 3rd for me in the 4. So I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with it being above.
Okay. There are just to highlight Toy Story for a second. There's few trilogies that have been as perfect as the Toy Story trilogy.
It's true. All 4 of them, I think, are phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to 3
to
and 4
varying
for sure,
degrees, but yeah.
Well, so I don't know if this is a compromise or not. I'm okay with it in A, but it does have to be above Toy Story.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick it like up here for right now.
Cool. That is where I would put it. So I'm good with that too.
Just because I do think it would be funny for someone to click on and go, what the hell is Toy Story 2 doing up in A? That's going to be
because it's a good movie. It's Pixar.
Yeah, good.
All right. So before we get to the next one, again, y'all got questions, comments, you want to make sure you get your voice opinion in, streamlabs.com/cinefanatics. It is that account is looking for someone to ask a question. Feel free to ask a question. Like, the hell's wrong with you guys? Anyway, you think this is fun now? We're going to have a lot of fun when we get later on this. But yeah, anyways,
This is the Marquee where I get redeemed for my Batman 89 opinion, and then you lose all credibility.
They'll tune in and say Toy Story 2 above the first. That's correct. This must be a good show.
Good job, Harold.
That's great.
Agreed.
So next one, and this is going to start with me, and this is going to be a fun one. Monsters Inc. This movie's good. I believe it's a very funny movie with a great concept. I love the idea behind it. It's not one that I'm going to be revisiting a lot. I never connected, again, that personal connection. I never connected with the idea of like the monster under the bed, the monster in the closet. It's not something that resonates with me. While I do like John Goodman and Billy Crystal, their performances, because it's not only their voice, but like a lot of their characters, they've adapted the personality of the actors into the personality of the character, and I like that they've done that. But this movie is not a standout for me. I would put this as a B tier movie. It's good, but not a huge standout.
Put that opinion back where it came from, or so help me. So help me.
Nikki.
This is my number 4 Pixar all time. The last time I watched it, I thought to myself, the only reason I didn't give a perfect score was like some quibble. and I completely forgot what it was. I love this movie so freaking much. Again, I think it's like the humor just works for me so well. Like even as stupid of a joke as Mike being obscured in the commercials, but he's so excited anyway. Like that stuff works for me. It's kind of a like loaded concept when you think about it. It's a monster workplace and where they get their energy from. Like it's so convoluted, but even like as a 7-year-old, like I dug it. Like I got into it. Boo is so stinking cute too. I love her as a character. When I have a kid, that's gonna be what I make them for Halloween, their first Halloween. And I mentioned before Woody being my favorite character, and Buzz is definitely up there as well. Mike and Sully are also up there for me because their dynamic is so funny and like they feel like even though they're obviously monsters, like they feel like so palpable as like characters and as people. So this is easy S for me.
All right, Clay.
Honestly, like I said, this was the first one I saw in theaters. It is a nostalgic favorite for me. I love this movie. I will say there are times that I take for granted how good it is, but even when I do, I always think, oh yeah, that's really good. And then I rewatch it and I'm like, I forgot how good this is. It's very good. I will say if I had more than 6 to put in S, this would be in my S tier, but I only have 6. So it's very high A. Very, very high A for me.
Okay. Chris.
Kitty. This movie is I'm pretty much right there with Nikki. This is my number 5. This movie is so great because I mean, one, it hits a good note as a child because there's so many like bright, colorful, wonderful personalities and characters in this movie. But on top of that, they're so clearly defined and so clearly laid out. And then you get that nice little, once again, I'm a sucker for a good plot twist in a movie. And when you give me the plot twist that the boss of the entire corporation is an evil guy also, which you go back, you look at it, you're like, I should have seen that one coming. Dude looks like he's evil. You give me that. And then on top of that, like, I think Lego said it in the world they created in this movie is great. Or they abandoned them out into the Icelands with the abominable snowman, which again, shout out to
John Ratzenberger.
John Ratzenberger. Shout out to John Ratzenberger. He is like the VIP of Pixar. Every time he shows up, he's doing something great. He was phenomenal in this movie. Absolutely hilarious. I love that I did not get the yellow snow joke as a child, but got it as I got older.
It's lemon.
It's lemon.
You're like, I want a lemon snow cone. That sounds delicious.
Sounds delightful. Everything about this movie is fantastic. I really enjoyed it. It was edge of your seat with the third act and the doors and everything, and the whole seeing the inner workings of the factory, and just it was great. It was wonderful, and I probably have to credit this for actually ending my fear of something popping out of my closet when I was a kid, because there's definitely a period of time in my life where I could not sleep unless I was facing my closet door because I was an idiot child. So this movie is very high up there for me. It's my number 5 all time, easy. So it's S tier for me.
Okay. So that is going to put this. So we got B, 2 S's, and an A. That's going to put it. That's probably going to put it above the first Toy Story, I would say.
It's going to put it in S tier.
So you think S tier?
I would put it below Toy Story 2, though.
Yeah, right now
on a personal level, and I think based on what we all said about both movies.
Yeah, right now where we're at, it's definitely under Toy Story 2. Even though I personally put it above Toy Story 2, but I'm just saying. Based on what we've said, this is where it's at. Because I can do math, I think, sometimes.
No, I'm the one that's good at math. You're the one that's good at words. We covered this already.
Those are our jobs.
It's true. Yeah.
So it worked.
And unless the word is Jesse's name.
Yeah. So real quick, we did get a Streamlabs in from Garth saying Jerry the toy repairman from Jerry's Game is the highlight of Toy Story 2 for me. It's heartbreaking when he paints over Andy's name. That is the one. That one I did like the when you see that paintbrush go over the bottom of the boot. Oh, heartstrings. Even though I never actually wrote my name on any of my toys, I understand the implications of that, and that's huge.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So next one,
I do like that he was able to rub it off, though.
Yeah,
Sure.
So next one we're moving to, and we're gonna start with Nikki on this one, and it is Nemo.
Nemo. This is one that I have always considered to be very good, but even like seeing it as a kid for the first time, it just never hit me super hard. But it's gorgeously animated, especially like just the ocean and just like scenically. I think the tanking is probably the funniest part of the movie for me personally. I don't mind Dory. I'm kind of ambivalent about her. It's honestly hard for me to like explain my reasonings for it. I think again, this is more just a movie that I consider to be really good. Also, props to the Thomas Newman score. The swell of music just leading up to the title card, I always have thought is absolutely gorgeous. But I think this is just one that it's hard to describe. I just never felt like. I think part of it is like the adventure. Like for me, it just never. Compared to other Pixar movies, like the plot is also just not as interesting to me, but I still think it's a really, really good movie. So for me, this is an A tier.
Okay. Clay?
We're limited on how many times we can put movies in certain tiers, right?
Yes.
On how many times we individually can say.
Oh, no.
tiers?
No, you can say it. It still
No?
ends up being
okay.
an average
Good.
of.
Good to know. Okay. Okay. So good. Then some of mine might be a little different.
You can say it, doesn't mean it's gonna go there.
Oh, exactly. Okay, so Finding Nemo, this is another one of those, much like Monsters Inc., that I forget how good it is. But I always think it's good. And then when I rewatch it, I remember how good it is. I will say on rewatching this, I love Marlon's journey here. You know, obviously, this film marked the beginning of Pixar trying as early as they can to like just destroy us. You know, because within the first 5 minutes. You know, we see the death of his wife and the majority of his children, you know. So, something that Pixar would lean very hard on for a while there. But I really enjoyed this. I will say, I know this is a lot of people's favorite Pixar movie. I really like it, but it's not quite S tier for me. I'm also going to put it in
A. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Chris?
Yeah, I love Clay's point there with destroying us emotionally. It's like Finding Nemo walked so up could run, kind of a situation. And here's the thing with Finding Nemo:
swam so up can fly.
There you go.
Continue.
I'm
please.
sorry. I froze there for a minute. My brother say something stupid. Okay. So what I loved about Finding Nemo is. I think this is the first movie where Pixar really did try to show off what they were capable of doing. I mean, these other movies were all great. They were all animated very well for their given time and everything. Even down to like on Monsters Inc., you look at the level of detail to Sully's fur. Fantastic. But this movie felt like the challenge. Pixar had the challenge to animate an actual ocean to make it feel lifelike, but also keep it in that aesthetic that is easily accessible to kids, adults, everybody. On top of that, it's also doing the other thing that Pixar is really good at, and that is characters. Pixar is good at both characters, animation. This is I think one of the reasons why Pixar has the staying power is because they nail every single aspect of animation almost to a T. And I think this is one of the first movies that really, really shows it. For me, I love the characters. I love everything that they did with how each one of the personalities shows through, including the Tank Gang, Willem Dafoe in there. Just the whole dynamic that they add to the movie to kind of counter and cut into like the heavy drama of Marlin finding his lost kid out in the wide open ocean. There's just so many. It feels like the different settings, the different scenes were all intentionally put in here to really create as big of a backdrop, as big of a world as possible. But Pixar really had this challenge to do so much. And I feel like they really accomplished it. For me, this movie is kind of, despite being a very heavy kind of drama in terms of my child is lost, I got to go find him. This movie feels like a vacation to me. It might just be the atmosphere of being in the ocean, but there's just something about this movie that is comforting and is inviting to me. I love it. I love the story. I do love the adventure aspect to it. And like Clay said, this is one of those where I revisit and I go, wow, this movie is actually really good. For me, this is like right behind Toy Story for me. This is top of the S tier in terms of like every aspect of Pixar, characters, animation, everything. So I love Nemo.
Okay. So I like this movie in that like it's essentially like a road trip movie in the ocean.
This is going already.
The what?
So I like this movie.
That's how I talk.
But
it's a road trip movie in the ocean, basically. There's lots of like really good like little memorable bits. I know I'm watching like everyone in the chat talking about them all too. The bubbles,
shark bait, ooh-ah.
Shark bait, ooh-ah. Yeah. Fish are friends, not food. Yeah, I love all that. My favorite bit was probably, I forgot who it was. It was like a crab, I believe. They're like, yeah, I know where your kid's at, but there's absolutely nothing you can do to make me talk. And they hold them above the water like mine.
I'll talk.
That had me laughing hysterically when I first saw it. It's a very cute movie. I really like it. I would actually put this still like an A. Still like probably maybe like the lower end of A. But yeah, I don't know if this would be like an S tier for me. So.
That's
anyways,
totally unrighteous, dude.
First, I was like, "Whoa,
whoa!" And I was like, "Whoa!"
So, with Chris's vote of it going into S, and everyone else is pretty much saying A, do we want to put it? You touched the butt. Yeah,
you touched the butt.
So, over the original Toy Story? Is that where we're sticking this?
I could go either way.
I wouldn't put it over the original Toy Story, but
this is where it's difficult for me because obviously I put Toy Story at the top of the S tier, so like I don't put Nemo over Toy Story, but because Toy Story is in the A tier, I have to put Nemo over Toy Story. This is difficult. Why did we make this show? I hate this.
Dude, we're only 5 in. You're gonna have a hard time.
It's gonna get worse. It's gonna get so much worse,
Yeah.
especially once we start talking about way worse movies.
Yeah. So
Get through
Nemo
these all.
over or under Toy Story 1?
I would say over, but that's
I would actually say over too, but super close. It's so close.
It's one of my S tiers, so obviously I have to say over at this point.
Okay. I would still keep it under, but
I just want to say this is great because so far everything's in my personal order that we have so far.
well, I'm glad this Marquee was able to cater to you, Nikki.
That's it. Move the original Toy Story to S tier.
Yeah. Screw this.
She's got to have one.
I will. I will.
Yeah.
Anyways, next one. We're going to go with Clay first. We're going to start with The Incredibles.
Ooh. The Incredibles. All right. So I like this movie. This is, was obviously Pixar's first attempt to, for the first few films, they would always try something to challenge them. And in this one, it was humans, because they hadn't really had a major human lead yet. And they're superheroes, and it's fun. I've always enjoyed it. It's kind of Pixar's first action movie. And like I said, all of those things I enjoy. And I know for some people, this is like their favorite Pixar movie. It's never been quite that for me. And I will say, after hearing people like dissect this movie, and talk specifically about Brad Bird's Randian worldview being really strong in here, I can't unsee that. And in fact, when I watched it this time, I was like, oh yeah, there's some things in here I really don't agree with. So I'm putting it B.
Okay. B. Chris.
In this entire list of Pixar movies, I have what I would probably consider 2.5 hot takes.
Uh-oh.
This is the first. C. I was not a fan of Incredibles. I did appreciate it more upon a rewatch as I watched it later, but I will say Incredibles does not hit me like a lot of these other Pixar movies do. And I think what it was is that there's something about other Pixar movies where they're inviting you into a larger than life kind of world. And I'm not saying superheroes aren't larger than life. Obviously they are. But there's something about a larger than life world of monsters, toys being alive, exploring the wide depths of the ocean, and bugs, even Bugs' life, exploring their world. There's always something to that. For this one, it felt too close to just a regular everyday movie, if that makes sense. It doesn't feel as much like Pixar as much as it does just a regular movie. And I think that's where it loses some of the magic for me. Maybe also it was just I watched this movie for the first time at the wrong time, because I wasn't maybe at when did this come out? This was 2004. Yeah. I don't know. I think that actually might be where it's at. In 2004, I was in high school, and maybe at that point, animation, I was going through that phase of every young man's life where animation isn't the highest priority. I'm glad I grew out of that.
Give me.
I don't want cartoons.
I don't like animation. It's for kids.
I had just stopped watching the Pokemon anime.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, around that time, yeah, for sure. But so it might have hit me at the wrong time, and that might have left a mark on me for the remainder of my life. But Incredibles is definitely not my favorite. I think it's still doing wonderful things. I think my brother will probably attest to this and probably mention it. I know it's been mentioned in the chat already. Best Fantastic Four movie that's ever happened, easily.
That's not a hard bar to hit, though. I mean, it's real easy to cross that. The
It's
four of
not.
us on the screen right
really
now are the
not.
best, are a better Fantastic Four than the Fantastic Four movie.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
my god.
So yeah, here's the thing. Again, Pixar, it's a good movie. It is a good movie. They told a good story, some good humor in it. But as far as in comparison to the rest of the Pixar's movies, it's not that high for me. I think I said what, C? Yeah, I have it at the top of my C tier.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, this is the best Fantastic Four movie ever.
Knew it.
I love it. Like, this was a good superhero movie. Man, y'all already said everything I was going to pinpoint on this. I love the fact that they nailed a really good aesthetic for how humans should look in this. Compared to go back and look at how humans looked in the very first Toy Story. Oof. Ooh.
Scary.
Rough looking people.
Scary.
Yeah. Those were the kids of nightmares.
Yeah.
I like it. Here's the thing I like about The Incredibles. Kind of like what Chris was saying. That this didn't feel much like a Pixar movie. It just felt like a movie. In that, I feel like this movie kind of fits in perfectly with the MCU. If this was an MCU based animated movie, I would completely 100% believe it. Especially because Frozone sounds like Nick Fury.
Wonder why.
Yeah, where's my super suit? I love that whole bit. Was the best part of this entire movie.
I'm the greatest good you're ever gonna get.
I'm your wife. I'm the greatest good. Yeah, I love that joke. That was so good. But yeah, I love it. It's a really solid origin story, and the fact that they were able to do an origin story of an entire family, so to speak, I love it. It worked very well. That being said, I still don't think this is like the strongest Pixar movie as far as like personal connections. I do agree that this is a really good movie, but there's nothing personally about it that stands out that I try to connect to when I watch a Pixar movie. So I would call this A. I like how like lately I've been saying like stuff like, this isn't the greatest, but I still stick it in A. Like, I refuse to commit to my letters and everything. So
it's like S is good and everything else sucks.
That's and here's the thing. That's the testament of Pixar again. Even the bad Pixar movies, for the most part, I feel like are still watchable. Much like what a lot of people say about the MCU. The worst MCU movies are still watchable. I've watched Thor: The Dark World and Eternals more than once. Easily.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely probably 2 movies on this list that I will never watch again.
There's going to be some, and the ones that are F tier, I'm very likely probably going to 100% agree with. But yeah, I don't feel like this is the top tier of Pixar movies, but it is a lot of fun. It is very enjoyable. So, Nikki.
So I definitely agree with y'all. This is not and has never been my favorite Pixar movie. I know it's a lot of people's favorites. As a kid, I did not connect with it a lot. But as I've gotten older, it has improved a lot for me on a personal level. And the first thing I want to bring up is, as Chris first hit on it, that it's kind of just about humans. But a couple, 2 points on that. One, I was just talking about this with my boyfriend, and he, we have fairly different film tastes, but he was kind of saying how, I'm very into, the human-based Pixar films. And I was like, that's a good point. I think that's part of why I connect to it, is the human story. And that's the thing. I attest that this is, and I'm sure people will disagree, I think this is the best Pixar film about family specifically, because I love the parts. I think that they're very realistic as a family, and it just feels so genuine, and they just happen to be superheroes on top of that. But 2, I think that's what's so great about Pixar is that they transcend these adventures, or pretty much all of them have some supernatural element, but they transcend genres. And I like that they can do that. And for the most part, all at least be solid. And like I said, with this movie, what's aged well, yes, Listerina family. But again, for me, one, the Giacchino score is fantastic and iconic. Secondly, I think Syndrome, being a disgruntled fanboy as the main villain, has aged almost too well.
Yeah, that part's genius. Yeah,
that was the beginning of film Twitter right there.
Yes. But and then a lot of the side characters, Edna Mode, are Frozone, are so entertaining. For me, again, it's not one of my favorites, and honestly, I feel weird saying this. The only reason I say S is because it's my number 6. So I have to go S, but very bottom of S.
Ooh,
we literally have S.
Yeah. Which means this is going to nestle very nicely either at the end of A or the top of B. Just for the sake that I'm the one controlling everything on here right now, and it's just going to be upside down. It's the Stranger Things version. For the simplicity of me being able to move things around right now, and again, please keep in mind that we can also move these around at the end. I am going to stick it at the top of B for right now.
I thought you were literally leaving it in D, and I was like, that's not even close to anything.
I don't think anybody said that.
Yeah, you even said you want to stick it in A. Now all of a sudden it's going under Bug's Life. What the hell? So, anyways, moving on to the next one, which we're going to start with Chris.
Oh, goody. Oh, goody.
Yeah, especially when you see what it is. This would be Cars.
I said 2.5 hot takes. Maybe there's actually a solid 3 hot takes.
Oh, by the way, I completely forgot. I wanted to go back and for The Incredibles, I wanted to highlight. We were all saying it's the best Fantastic Four movie, and I wanted to highlight Lego's comment. Hey, Roger Corman did a great job. How dare you besmirch his name? Great comment, Lego. Love it. Anyways, continue with your opinions of Cars that are probably correct.
Well, here's the thing about Cars. So if Incredibles is too much of a regular movie because it's too much about humans and all that stuff, I think Cars is not great in the other direction. I love exploring the world of fish, monsters, bugs, toys. All that's great because there's so much love and life in those characters. I cannot for the life of me connect with a car. Good God. As much as he wants to yell ka-chow, I'm not with Owen Wilson here. And God save Larry the Cable Guy. Oh, God. If I hear "Get Her Done" one more time, I'm going to drive my head through a wall. Cars is okay for kids. Good for kids. Excellent toy driving film series. I know I worked at Toys R Us. We almost had an entire aisle dedicated to the Cars franchise. This movie is fantastic for children. Not good for everybody else. Because I will say, if I could give a positive here, I will say, again, this qualifies as Pixar's good at characterization. There are some good characters in the Cars franchise. But that's about where the buck stops for me. Outside of that, I don't care for the story. The first Cars movie is boring to me. I'm not a fan. That being said, it's probably easy to say that I'm putting this in the F tier. Cars goes in the F tier for me. Not on board, but it's not the lowest in the F tier, surprisingly. But nah.
I don't think that's that surprising. Don't worry.
All right, so F tier on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a movie that's about a very basic protagonist learning a very basic lesson about himself, and then by the end of the movie becomes a better person. I mean, car. It's got some great car puns. Like, yeah, I don't know. I kind of agree with Chris. The absurdity of the living cars is it's a little too insane. Like, I get the living toys, the living bugs, like living fish, got all that. Even monsters that aren't even real, as far as I know.
Because they acknowledge humans. This world makes no sense.
Yeah, it's so. I was rewatching. I rewatched Cars 3 the other day, and Chris came in and like. I was pointing out, I was like, the hell's wrong with it? Who built the stadium? How do you build things in this world? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like,
if you think about this movie, even for a fraction of a second, you'll lose it.
Oh, just no. And I get it. It is supposed to be a kid's movie. This movie's supposed to be like very much the definition of, you know what? Just shut the hell up and enjoy the movie, y'all. But it's too hard. Again, Pixar movies are movies that you personally connect to. I don't know anything about cars. I'm not a gearhead when it comes to cars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I like Larry the Cable Guy in the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, and that's about it. So other than that, not so much.
The movie begs the question how, to which the answer is, hey, shut up.
Yeah. Man, it's a watchable movie. It's entertaining. It's got some funny bits to it, but yeah, I would say throw this in D.
Jeremy, the answer is children. Kids. This movie's, again, like I said, this franchise is built for kids, not for their parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nikki.
Nikki's like top of S tier.
Nikki's gonna do an S tier. Let's go.
I mean, I feel like it is almost for me, just only in comparison to Chris, in that I don't hate it that much. I mean, but in terms of like what you've all said, there's very little more I can really add. I more so agree with Robert. I think it's perfectly watchable. It's fine. I've never had any connection to it. And I was just thinking about this. Part of like we talked about everything else. The main difference is everything else either they have to do with living beings like fish or bugs, or at least something that's anthropomorphic, like the toys. So it's like we can kind of like. I think that's part of why we lack this connection to them. But yeah, in all seriousness, like again, I think it has a few jokes. I know the stoplight joke when McQueen first shows up, I thought was kind of funny, where they're just like sitting there waiting. But again, like nothing hits hard. Mater, I don't despise him, but I don't particularly like him. There was one point in time where the Wikipedia article didn't even mention him in the whole movie summary because he's that unimportant to the plot. If you really think about it, like he's a gag character. The biggest positive I do have to give, I mean, it's still animated well, but more seriously is I do think Paul Newman does give a pretty solid performance as Doc
and I believe this was his final performance, final film role.
Exactly. So I have to give credit there. Like, there's nothing about it to me that's offensively terrible. I just don't really care. So not that I think it's necessarily great, but just because I do think it's fine, and there's ones that I'm honestly lower on. I feel like this is gonna sound so high now, but I'll go C. Honestly, I don't think it's. I think it's okay.
Whoa! Slow down, Nikki. Jeez.
Pump the brakes.
Car stand right here.
Throw it in reverse. Other card terms.
I do like that we're starting to get like car puns on this. Like Commentatoring Nerd says, you get past the suspension of the disbelief. I see what you're doing there, Nerd, and I appreciate the car suspension joke. That's great. All right, Clay.
I really didn't think I was going to be higher on this film than other people in this group. I will say, though, that this has always been my least favorite early Pixar film. I've just never really connected to it. The only reason it got sequels is because it sold toys. I mean, you hit all the points, but once again, I also enjoy the fact that it's got Paul Newman in it. Catherine Hellman gets a role in this. Mona from Who's the Boss, if anybody's confused. I mean, there are probably a lot of people out there that don't know what that is, but that's okay. But yeah, some great performances and stuff here and there. I like that we finally actually get a showcase, a larger role for Bonnie Hunt in a Pixar film in this, because she'd been in a few before this, but this was probably the biggest role she's had up to this point.
Was she Bo Peep?
No, she's not in. She didn't come in. Was it Toy Story 3 that she got her first Toy Story role, Nikki?
Yeah, because she plays Dolly.
Dolly, yeah. Okay. I just couldn't remember if she'd played a different character in Toy Story 2, but she has a role in the Cars franchise, the Toy Story franchise, and what's the other one? There's another one I can't remember, but she also she starred in A Bug's Life. But yeah, other than the few acting things that I'm like, oh, good. I'm glad to see that. I said it before. This world makes no sense, and the sign of the difference between a good movie or a bad movie is that you can have a world that makes no sense, but if your movie is good enough, you don't care. If it's bad enough, you start picking it apart. And I don't think this is a horrible movie, but I've never been down with it. So I'm actually putting it in the C tier.
It's not that it's horrible, it's just thin.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
It's just a little too out there.
There are things that I enjoy about it. I actually like the idea of a film being about, slowing down and enjoying things. I kind of like that. as a film itself, it's never been one of my favorites.
All right, so we've got an F, a D, and 2 C's. So this is probably going to go D. Probably.
Yeah.
Do we want to put it above or under Bug's Life?
I put it above personally, but I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm not like strong either way.
Of
You're
course, I'm
above.
definitely under.
You're under. Clay?
I'm under.
Under?
Under.
Cool. Under sounds good. That's right, guys. At some point, I do get a little lazy with the placement of them, but all right. Who's starting this next one?
I believe
I
it
went
is
third,
you.
so I think you, Robert.
So it'd be me. Well, that's convenient.
Perfect. Wow.
Oh,
That worked out.
Let me get my notes on this one. The next one would be a Ratatouille. Again, as I said at the top of the show, I enjoy cooking, so I connect to this personally because I like the cooking aspects of this movie are really good. If you are someone who is interested in cooking, especially if you're a kid and you kind of enjoy cooking already, this is a good movie to watch because they actually do have real like cooking tips and like knowledge. There's stuff you could learn from this movie that if you were to go to like a real culinary school, you'd probably, well, I don't know about now. This movie came out, what, 2007? At the time this came out, if you were like someone watching it and then you went to culinary school, you probably impressed the hell out of the instructors. Just because like this movie, it explains a lot of stuff like mise en place, having all your ingredients and everything set out ready to go. So you're not scrambling, like trying to slice cheese or chop an onion or something before you start cooking it. You have it ready to go, so all you got to do is just dump it, much like what we see from like TV chefs. Stuff like that is integral to this. On top of that, I love that we have essentially two stories running side by side. We've got the story of Remy and his family and how he has a dream to be a chef. He doesn't want to be a sewer rat eating like the nasty shit from the sewer or anything. And then you've got was it Alfredo that's trying to be something. He's trying to live up to this legacy and impress a girl. And like all of this all at the same time. And both of these stories just happen to collide in like the most delicious way possible. I feel like I sound like a real critic by saying that now. But I love how this goes. It's a lot of fun. It's really touching for me. I would put this like a very high A. It's not quite perfect. It doesn't quite hit like that nostalgia twang that I would like an S tier movie to hit for me, but it is very high A. I would stick this like above Finding Nemo. So, Nikki.
I love this movie. Just like Monsters, Inc., any criticisms that I've ever had of it, I can't even like think off the top of my head right now, and they were probably just nitpicks. I kind of just love any kind of movie where it involves someone exploring their passion or like within depth. Obviously, the food porn is great. You touched on the stories of Remy and Linguini, which like, it's so absurd, but like for me it just works so well. And all of the, even though we don't delve into like the whole kitchen staff from what we see of them, they're all charming and funny. Colette is great. I don't know the name of the song, but that French song that plays in the little montage after Linguini takes over the restaurant is gorgeous, as well as a lot of the other music in the movie. And we have to talk about Anton Ego and just his soliloquy at the end of the movie when he's doing the review. And I can't pull the exact quote, but his whole point of a piece of art is always going to be worth more than our criticism of it, which is such a great point. I just love this movie so much. This is an easy S for me.
Nice. Clay?
I really like this movie. This is another one that astounds me how good it is when I rewatch it. I really enjoy not only the performances of Patton Oswalt, but as Nikki pointed out, I love Peter O'Toole as Anton Ego. That's just brilliant to me. Yeah, there's a lot I really like about this movie. I will say though, this is one that I don't really remember even knowing that it came out until I saw it on like on DVD and being like, oh, this is a Pixar movie I didn't know about. So it kind of has always flown under the radar for me, which is why it's not going to be at the top, but I really do enjoy it. It's either low A or high B for me. I think I'm going to stick with A though.
Okay. And Chris, and make sure in case y'all don't see it in the chat, I said Alfredo, I meant Linguini. I don't know why. I was thinking
that's his full name. That's his full name.
Yeah, I was about to say his name's
Alfredo Linguini.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That was correct.
And the toy's middle name is Jane. Jesse Jane.
Jingleheimer Schmidt.
I'm not getting away with that, am I?
Like I said, no. Andy did call her Bazooka Jane when he first got her. So that's probably where you're coming from. Yeah.
So yeah, Chris.
I'll definitely take that's definitely where I was coming from. Not as big a fan of Ratatouille as everybody else is.
Shocker. Mr. Microwave his meals in the microwave every night.
Factually incorrect. There's a lot about this movie that though I do appreciate, because I did rewatch it and found that I enjoyed it more upon the rewatch, because I'd only seen it once before. So watching it again for this Marquee was definitely a good idea. So this ends up being one of those for me where, while there's a lot to like about the movie, again, good characters, great animation, I get hungry when I watch this movie. I think that's one of the points. If you don't get hungry watching this movie, you're not really watching this movie. I like the character of what's his name, the Linguini's father. Sorry, spoilers. Whoops.
Mr. Alfredo.
Mr. Alfredo. Yes.
Gustav.
Mr. Alfredo's my dad. Call me Linguini. So, yeah, I love his character. I thought his character was fantastic. But this movie is one of those where the story it's just simply, while it's a good story, it's a Pixar movie, it's a good movie, the story itself just doesn't connect with me as much as some of these other Pixar movies do. And I think that's just kind of where it lies for me. It is one of those situations where it's a good movie. It's just, in comparison to all these other movies that I connect with better, I like all these other movies better. They connect with me better. So while Ratatouille, I do agree, is a good movie, it is in the C tier for me in comparison to everything else.
All right.
But I'm not going to get my way on this because everybody else is like S and A over here. So put it wherever.
All right. So I am going to put it.
That puts it low A. Is that right?
Nobody said D.
No. So for those of y'all wonder why I do that, it's because I'm trying to measure it in between the lines.
It's resizing.
So we've got S, 2 A's, and a C. So I believe it will probably put it at a lower A.
Puts it at bottom of A.
Yeah. So we can do 4. So I'm just going to leave like a gap here.
I'm not alone. Yay.
I like BCD's already like firing the shots before we even get there. Oh, that's the next one actually. Well, stick around. We're about to have some fun on this.
Well,
some people are going to have some fun.
Define fun.
Fun would, I don't know.
Because at least one person here is going to have maybe some more fun than the others.
Where did I put it? Okay.
I'm just assuming Clay and Nikki's opinion on this movie already.
Yeah.
What?
Okay.
How many are we in so far on this?
8.
Actually, we're
Yeah,
8.
we're
in?
not very far, and it's
And
Jeez.
it's now.
yeah.
It's
Here's the-
midnight
here's the
for us
thing.
East
We're
Coast.
taking a while to get through this.
Yeah,
I do have
again,
to work tomorrow.
Yeah, here's a testament to Pixar is that you could talk about these movies like probably all night. Let's try
Yeah.
not to do that, and we'll just get on to the next one, which is going to be Wall-E.
All right, starting with me. I can okay.
Nikki.
My feeling of this is actually very similar to Chris's feeling about Ratatouille. I think this is a really good movie. I do not personally connect with. I think for me, it's more of a technical achievement than anything else. The sound's great, the score is great, the visuals are great, the sweeping landscape of space is great. I will say for me, the movie is also very consistent. I know a lot of people think it lags in the middle. I don't agree. I think like it's actually paced pretty well. And this is probably a very lousy sounding excuse. I'm also just not the biggest sci-fi, like hard sci-fi fan. So maybe that's part of it. But again, I think it's really good. I very much enjoy it. But for me, it's B. So I don't make BCD's list.
Ooh. Woohoo. Clay.
For me, this I realized I hadn't watched this since seeing it in the theaters. And going back, I loved every minute of it. I think this film is beautiful. I love the story of connection that it tells. And for me, this is S tier. I would say lower S, but still S.
Okay. Chris.
This is one of my S tiers, easy. I love Wall-E. It's a remarkable achievement for me where I can care in so much about a character that doesn't really talk all that much, if at all, other than basically saying his name. I love Wall-E. He's fantastic. The story is haunting, and at the same time, just absolutely well made. The whole idea of like the future and this is where life goes and everything is it reminds me of like a child-friendly version of Idiocracy to a degree.
It's about to make that comparison also. Yeah.
But at the same time, the animation on this movie is, once again, like I said with Nemo, it is another astounding achievement. I think Nikki even brought it up. It's another astounding achievement in terms of what Pixar is able to do animation wise. And we see kind of tentpoles like this every now and then. I think just it's a simplistic story in terms of Wall-E being a simplistic character, but all the parts together are, they just add up to a really solid, great movie, in my opinion. It's one of my favorites. It's up there in S for me.
Yeah. So I agreed with the connection to Idiocracy. This definitely looks like a very plausible future that we may all be like hurling to. There's a lot of social commentary on this, what I thought was interesting, because a lot of the other Pixar movies, they've just like tried to connect to you on a personal level, whether it's your childhood, your pets, your fears, food, whatever. If you're a sentient car, it connects to you there. This one, it doesn't have so much of a connection to who you are. It's more of a connection of who you could be or what could happen in your world, not even necessarily to you. It's very existential with those kinds of thoughts in the direction of it. The look of it is fantastic. I loved like the beginning. Someone said it. Nerd said it in here, that it's effectively a silent film.
Yeah.
The parts, like just watching Wall-E roam around and collecting stuff and whatnot, and then he first runs into Eve, like that's a magical moment, just watching that interaction and stuff. I thought it was great. And then it goes up to the Ark or whatever, I forgot the name of the ship that they're on. and then we're seeing like all the people, and then it just like spirals and straight into depression because you're like, oh, this is what has happened to humanity. We're all sitting around drinking smoothies, or we're all just I hate that. It's good commentary on a plausible society, but it's really heavy-handed on it. So
capitalist as hell.
Yeah, extremely. It's a really weird, out of like nowhere story for Pixar to tell for essentially what could still be considered a kids movie. Axiom, yeah. And then of course, like just as I'm thinking of it, Garth is saying it in the chat. This is Fred Willard's the only. Has he been the only live action in a Pixar movie? I could have sworn there was one more, and I can't remember it.
In movement, I think there's been other like live action, like photos and stuff in other Pixar movies.
You see other live action actors in this, but he's the only like one that speaks.
Yeah, because Wall-E is watching a live action movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, no, in like the present day, or Fred Willard's time, you see
he's an actual character in the movie as a live action. Yeah.
Yes.
I know. Like I kind of want to just put it in B tier. It's not the greatest for me just because of like how heavy-handed it is, and like again the nods to Idiocracy. I love Idiocracy for how idiot it is, but this one just is a little too weird outside of the normal for Pixar. So yeah, I would go B. So we've got 2 B's and 2 S's. This is going to go into a solid A.
Yeah.
Now, placement in A. This looks good.
Now,
do we have any?
Not mad. I wouldn't be mad at that spot in A.
Like, is everyone actually okay? Like, not in joke or anything, but is everyone actually okay with that placement?
I would put it below Ratatouille, but I'm not gonna fight this. I have other battles.
I prefer that spot for the moment, but you know, like I said, we'll talk these things over. It might not move, it might go down. Who knows? I hope not, but
we'll see.
All right. So next one, I guess we're starting with Chris.
Oh, I thought it was Clay because I started first.
Okay, so this next one will be Clay.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, I said BCD. So we got a Streamlabs from another one from Garth saying, regarding Wall-E, I've said for years I want to edit a music video with all the scenes when Eve is shut down, and I'll play the song Girlfriend in a Coma by the Smiths over the scenes.
Oh my God.
So going with Clay next.
Yes.
We've got Up.
All right. I'm a broken record at this point, but this is another one of those that I underestimate. I remember at one point somebody saying, "Oh, the first 5 or 10 minutes of this is amazing, and the rest of the movie is okay." And I remember thinking, "Yeah, I think that's right." On rewatch, no. This entire movie is phenomenal. It's just, there's a reason it was nominated for Best Picture. It is so good. And the, love story between Carl and Ellie is heartbreaking and beautiful. Obviously, oh, geez. I'm going to lose all my cred here. I can't think of the kid's name.
It's okay. I can help.
Yeah, go ahead.
Russell,
thank you. Russell is a great addition, to kind of, bring him into a new life. Doug is hilarious. There are so many, and, I love the fact that Christopher Plummer voices the villain here, Charles Muntz. Although when you think about it, you're like, how old is that dude at this point? He's got to be really old. But yeah, I really like this movie. So I this is one of my S tiers.
Chris?
Not to dive into Lightyear too early, but I need a Doug and Socks movie, please.
Yes, I agree with that.
Just a whole movie of those two, just
Yes.
going on an adventure, doing whatever they do. I'll watch it.
Squirrel, I hear you would like a squirrel. I'll find you a squirrel.
Top of S tier, right there. So Up. I think it's fascinating that everybody is saying that, like what Clay was saying, that the beginning is great and the rest of the movie is just okay. Like, I do need to rewatch it again, but I will say this much: from what I remember, I love the entire thing. The entire movie is such a great adventure, even if it's one of those situations where you have to check your questions at the door, like how is Mr. Fredrickson here? How's Carl pulling a house by a post? Forget it. No, don't worry about that.
Yeah.
It's the movie itself, the adventure they're on, and the lessons they learn, and especially with Carl, how he was so shut off from the rest of society after his wife passed away that he, for him to find friendship and camaraderie again in this little kid, I think is such a fantastic story. It is, as far as storytelling goes, I think it is one of the best stories that Pixar has told. I think it is very much up there in S tier. It's not my highest in the S tier. It's probably actually at the very end of my S tier, but it is for me still an S tier level film. Like Clay was saying, again, there's a reason why it was up for a Best Picture. It is one of the best. I'm going to repeat myself. It's one of the best stories that Pixar has ever told.
Yeah, it checks all the boxes, hits all the bases.
Yeah.
So you're saying S?
Also, Doug. Yes.
Yeah,
but Doug.
Squirrel.
Yeah. I am one of those that also subscribes to the idea that the beginning of this movie is absolutely amazing. They did phenomenal with the opening to this. And then the rest of the movie, I'm just, I don't think there's not really, I feel like anything that spectacular with it. I feel like it just kind of falls off on the way it captures the heart at the beginning of the movie. And I don't feel like that kind of connection comes back. I would rank this in B.
Wow.
Nikki.
Thank you so much, Robert, for illustrating my point, because I'm going to call out the chat right now, too, because Clay and Chris hit the nail on the head. Everyone says the first 10 minutes are the best and the rest is less. If that's the best criticism people can get and they can't even get more specific, I'm sorry, I just don't buy that argument. Like, I have the most specific criticism I've ever gotten about everything after the first 10 is someone who didn't like the dogs who were piloting the planes. Okay, that's a personal preference, but this isn't just my favorite Pixar movie. This is one of my top 3 movies of all freaking time. And you know what? Look, I will agree with the concept that the beginning is the best part of the movie. I'm not even going to dispute that. But
Sure.
The rest of it, like, again, it's everything hits for me. Like, even, and you know what? Again, a lot of it can be personal preference, but the humor hits. Russell, who's like this sweet kid, and there's depth with his own story that parallels Carl and Ellie. Carl and Ellie couldn't have their own children, and Russell's dealing with an absent parent. And I just love the idea of these deep connections that are formed with people who aren't necessarily your family. Like blood runs so much thicker. Like relationships run so much thicker than just blood. And I just love that because, I mean, like, we have a lot of movies lately about family. I don't think family that's not related is touched on enough in a lot of these films. And I like that this movie does. And also, when you're talking about the second half, you also have to talk about the scene when Carl, he's technically completed his mission. The house is at the edge of the falls, but then he finds the book of his and Ellie's where they were going to document all their big adventures. And he reads the note where he was expecting all these grandiose pictures, and instead it was just their memories, like, of them just doing basic everyday things. And she says at the end, after she's like knowing that she's about to die, that she had a wonderful adventure with him and she wants him to have a new one. Like, you can't discount that moment, which is not in the beginning, people. It's in part of the movie. So, like, again, I think a lot of it by all means is a personal preference. Like I said, I've been, and I'm sorry, Commentatoring Nerd, I love all the dogs. I think they're all pretty funny. I love the squirrel joke. I love the small mailman joke. The small mailman. Again, like I could go on about this movie, and I also both my parents love it. My parents don't generally watch animated movies, but my dad asked to watch it with me on Father's Day 2 years ago. So I definitely have a lot of bias, but I love it. That's all. If it wasn't obvious.
All right.
Take your B tier ranking and shove it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna recede my B and just stick it in S because I understand the connection. I get it, and it's still a good movie.
And I also want to say, everyone's entitled to their opinions. I'm really sorry.
Where in S do y'all want to put it?
I know.
For me, it's like mid S.
I'm not gonna like fight.
And I think the other two on the opposite ends of the spectrum. So
you think this would be in between Toy Story 2 and Monsters Inc?
That's fine. I'm fine with that.
This is where it's hard for me again because I have it like exactly right after Monsters Inc. in my list, but Toy Story 2 also was in my S tier, so everything's just messed up. Just throw it in the S tier somewhere.
I'd say probably like third.
I love all three of those movies in the S tier, so like I can't even really complain.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 of my S tier movies are currently sitting in the A tier, so what am I gonna do?
No.
So I'll move up to third. And I'll stick Monsters in between.
We do have to start filling out the 6 movies in the S tier, so
yeah.
Yeah, this is gonna get rough when we get to the lower ones.
Yeah.
So next one, who's up next, Chris?
Is it me?
I believe so. You've got Toy Story 3.
Oh, goody. Toy Story 3. So I want to word this to make it sound like I'm not giving a hot take here. I love Toy Story 3. So let's just preface that by saying I love Toy Story 3. Perfect trilogy. Great capper for a perfect trilogy, in my opinion. Because of the nostalgia glasses for me, 1 and 2 are higher. I think 1 and 2 are higher for me. And I admit that is probably nostalgia. But at the same time, what I love about the Toy Story franchise, and 3 is included in this, is that each movie hit me exactly pretty much where I was in life. Toy Story 3 came out in 2010, which granted is 3 years after I graduated high school, but I was still attending community college at that time. So Andy going off to college and trying to figure out what to do with his toys. 2010 was when I moved out from my parents and moved on my own for the first time. So Toy Story 3 hit me exactly where I was in life at the exact time that it came out. That being said, again, for me, 1 and 2 connect more in terms of the nostalgia side of things. I love those movies. I have absolute love for the entire Toy Story franchise. So while I do think that Toy Story 3 is a fantastic movie and great, it does not end up in the S tier for me above either the original or the second one. And in my list, I have it in the number 2 spot in the A tier right behind Toy Story 2. So for me, it's an A tier movie. They hit a lot of really good stories, a lot of really good story aspects. I love the story of what do the toys think about once Andy is grown and no longer able to play with them. What happens to the toys? I think that is a wonderful key thing that if they were going to make a third movie, that is the story you go with. And I think they hit it. They nailed it. So for me, it's near the top of A tier. And I will let everybody else on this list kind of decide where it shifts from there.
All right. So I'm just going to read what I got like verbatim. It's like, super personal movie about what to do with your toys as you grow up. Do you throw them out? Do you donate them? Do you give them to another kid? Keep them and decorate your YouTube set with them. It's a great idea, very well executed, and absolutely did not make me cry at the end. No tears whatsoever. Not at all. No moisture from my eyeballs. I am not protesting this too much at all. Just
Liar.
Yeah. This is a good movie. I would stick this in A. I typically I would put this over Toy Story 2, but still under the first Toy Story. But I mean, generally I would say A for this. Nikki.
Oh man, this is this is the problem. So I've played my hands so much already. Up is obviously, as I made clear, my number one. My number two flip-flops so much between Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3. And I know a lot of people say that they're basically the same movie, but they think one's better than the other. I just love them both so much, and I think they're differentiated enough that I don't view it that way necessarily. But I love the expansion of the lore. I like Barbie and Ken are probably like two of my favorite side characters in all of Pixar. Like, it's so stupid and corny, but they're
nice
so funny.
ass Scott.
Yes. And I mean, I think I remember I was 16 when it came out, and like the seniors at my high school were like, we get to graduate with Andy, and I was totally jealous. But honestly, like my only real criticism of this is even back then, it's like when they're as emotional of a moment is when they're like about to go in the incinerator. I knew they weren't going to do that. It's like all I'm thinking is like, okay, when are they getting saved? Hurry up. But honestly, like otherwise, I adore this. This is an easy yes.
God, can you imagine if the movie ended with them getting incinerated? Just the most traumatic movie in all existence.
All the kids in the theater just crying, and they're like, well, I mean, your toys have to go get thrown out sometime.
Pixar, what the hell?
I gotta say, I questioned it for a second. I was like, they're not gonna. Really?
At least one of them? Buzz, maybe?
Yeah.
That would have been
I mean,
Clay.
you know. Okay, so I also really enjoy this. I mean, I think I said this during my review of number 2. I think objectively, this is probably the best of the Toy Story films. Even though I personally prefer 2, 3 is a very close second for me. There is so much about it that I really enjoy. I enjoy the story of Lotso and how he turns and how he gets hard, and like there's some really dark stuff going on here. You know, what the loss of love can do to a person, kind of thing. So yeah, there's some really great stuff in here. For me, like this is either low S or high A. It's really hard to choose. The problem is we've got so much in the A tier right now. But yeah, I would probably say low S for me.
So yeah, we want to put it in S. Is everyone okay with it? Like at the end of S for right now?
For
yes.
now.
Damn, I was gonna say put it in A and bump Nemo up to S, but okay. I'm trying to get my way on. Well, I guess I got 2 of them, 2 of mine in S already, but.
All right, so next one, and it's my turn.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, goody. Yay. Oh, yeah, this one will be great because this one's going to be right at one particular spot, Cars 2.
Oh, God.
I remember very little about this movie, except it's pretty much like Mater Show. There's nothing special and memorable about this movie. F tier. This is my lowest on my ranking that I've written out. This is my lowest F tier. The Good Dinosaur is better than this.
Okay.
Nikki.
there's very little to say. The best parts about this movie are the Giacchino score because he's still amazing, and I mean Michael Caine. I mean, you can't ever go wrong with having him. And you know what? Like, this is truly the only Pixar movie that I truly consider not good. But even then, it's like it's so much with expectation. If this was made by like Illumination, we would all probably think it's better. But again, I don't even think it's awful. I just am not that interested. I don't think it's just not particularly funny. The story is incredibly weird, and like, yeah, they go all these countries, but because they're still cars, it's not the same. So this is a very easy F.
Clay.
Okay, so I had only watched this once, and I think I wasn't really paying attention to it, so I rewatched. I rewatched all of them. But I didn't hate this movie. I don't think it's phenomenal or anything. But I had fun with it. And I know for a lot of people, Mater is annoying. It doesn't really bother me. Probably because this is my biggest exposure to Larry the Cable Guy is in the Cars movies. And I actually kind of like the bit of storyline that they do here with him and Lightning McQueen. That Lightning needs to accept his friend for who he is kind of thing. But even so, it's not going to be very high for me. I've got this at the very highest, low C.
Okay. And Chris.
Put that thing straight into the F tier. Yeah, here's the thing with Cars 2. Again, Cars is the most for kids franchise of the entire Pixar lineup. Where if everything else in Pixar is for families as a whole, both kids and adults can appreciate it, Cars is the most for children franchise. This feels like a nice extended episode of a Cars TV show story arc. It does not feel like a plot or a story that deserved to have its own movie. Mater does not need to be the front and center character. Lightning McQueen is the lead of the franchise. Mater is fantastic, I guess, as a side character, as the comedic relief. Do not give him his own movie. I feel like this was like coming off the height of like Larry the Cable Guy's popularity, but it just feels like maybe it was too late.
It was like towards the end of it, though. Yeah.
It was like they were trying to hit that, but they were hitting that while they were animating it. But by the time the movie was released, it was too late, kind of a situation. Again, if I hear one more get her done, I'm driving my head through a wall. This movie deserves to be in the F tier.
Yeah, because that's what kids want is Larry the Cable Guy. They see his stand-up show, like, I want to see him in a Cars movie again. Yeah. This is Clay, you're okay with it being an F, right?
Yeah, I have no problem with it. I just, don't hate it as much as you guys, but I don't think it's great.
All right. Okay, so next one. And guys, again, let me see. So next one, again, if anyone has any questions, comments, issues, which I'm surprised we don't have that many issues yet. Streamlabs.com/cinefanatics if you want to curse us out or whatever. Attach a $sign to it. That'd be cool. Anyways, moving on to the next one. Which I know the chat is about to get a lot more Garth on this. We've got Brave. Nikki, we are starting with you.
The thing I remember the most about seeing this in theaters was walking out of the theater with my mom and sister, and my mom going, "Finally, a movie about appreciating your mother." In all seriousness, like, this is the definition of uber basic to me. I think it's fine. I think it does its most basic job. Nothing about it stands out to me. I think Merida's a very okay protagonist. I I don't feel strongly about it. Like I usually think little kids and babies are super cute and funny. I don't particularly like the triplets. Just nothing about this hits very hard. This is a D for me. And I'll be right back. I really need to pee.
All right. Clay.
This is a movie that I think after the first time I watched it, I remember just thinking, oh, so they remade Brother Bear, which I didn't like. It feels, if you aren't really paying attention, it does feel like very similar beats. However, I rewatched this a few years ago for a podcast I was doing, and really started to kind of connect to the relationship between Merida and her mother, and really enjoyed that. And I will also say I love especially the Julie Fowlis songs in this film. Touch the Sky and Into the Open Air, absolutely amazing. I listen to those on repeat sometimes. And I really do connect to Merida as a character, although I will say that Pixar is wrong. She was not their first princess character. Their first princess character was Princess Ada. But I do enjoy this movie. It's not one of my favorites, but I do really enjoy it. I would put it high B.
All right, Chris.
There are definitely aspects of this movie to enjoy and to like. The way the story is told is really well done. There's definitely a good connection for mothers and daughters. I can't really speak to that, obviously, because while I do have a mother, I am not her daughter. Yes, what I said makes sense. That being said, it's not my favorite by any stretch. It's a good movie on its own. If this was a vacuum and we were just looking at Brave by itself and maybe comparing it to some other movies or on some other tier list, I would say it's a good movie and probably does rank higher. But for me and how it connects with me compared to a lot of these other Pixar movies, it is not that high. I do have it probably top of D for me. But that's not to say that it isn't a well-made movie, that it doesn't tell a really good story. It's just, it's not one that while a lot of these other movies I feel drawn to rewatch again, it's not one that I feel like I will go out of my way to take time to rewatch specifically again. It's one of those, once was good, I got it, I understand what's happening there, and moving on kind of movies. I think it's good. I think there's a lot there to connect with other people and their lives and what they deal with personally, but this wasn't high up for me. D. Top of D.
You're saying B?
D.
D. Okay.
As in dog.
Okay. Yeah, where'd my notes on this go?
D is in Brave.
So I kind of agree with like a lot of what y'all are saying. I think this is a good movie. When I watched it, so I just watched this for the first time like a week ago or so, week and a half ago. Obviously, this wasn't one that I was like really eager, like I need to watch Brave. It's not, overall, it's just generally not a standout Pixar movie, again, unless you have a personal connection to it. I thought it was a good movie, but it has like so many like story tropes that we've seen Disney do, and in some cases they've done it better in other movies. For example, the princess that has to get into an arranged marriage and she doesn't want to. Aladdin. The person turns into an animal, very likely probably a bear because it's Disney. So like Brother Bear, like what Clay was saying, we've seen like aspects of this done before. That being said, I did enjoy this movie. I thought the humor for it, there was a lot of good humor, especially once the mother turns into a bear, which I actually thought was kind of funny. Is that actually doesn't happen until like 45 minutes into this movie. It takes 45 minutes for this movie to really get into like the whole plot. The whole thing is just building up like the character's personality and what it is that their opening starting to do, but then it rolls into the plot once the bear comes in. I don't know. It was enjoyable. I liked it. I would still probably put this like a low B, high C.
He said high C.
Also, I do want to bring up, and this has nothing to do with the quality of the movie, but I'll die on this hill. Pretty much any other movie nominated for Best Picture that year, I really wish won instead.
Oh, you mean Best Animated?
Animated, not picture.
What else was nominated that year?
This was
Wreck-It Ralph.
2012, Wreck-It Ralph. Yeah, I would have given it to Wreck-It Ralph.
Pirates, Band of Misfits, Frankenweenie, Paranorman, I think.
Frankenweenie. Paranorman. That was that year. Wow.
So we've got 2 Ds, a B. Mine could be like B or C. Probably going to put this one in C then because we got 2 Ds kind of weighing it down.
Yet.
Things are going to start shifting here. We are officially halfway through this list, so
yeah, we need to speed it up just a little bit.
All right, that we
get a
can
little
do.
bit of sleep.
Who's next?
I think it's me.
Yeah, it's Clay.
Oh, that's right. Okay, real quick, we did get that super chat from BCD saying hashtag get her done. Hashtag you're welcome, Chris.
Hashtag banning BCD.
Play.
Kidding.
Okay, so Monsters University. This was a sequel to one of my favorite Pixar. Actually, at the time, I think it was my favorite Pixar film. But this, I really like what this film is saying, but I've never really connected to it. It's never been one that I'm like, ooh, I like this so much, I want to watch it again. Like I said, I really like the things that are being said, but I don't really connect to it. And I feel bad, but that's just the way it is. I'm putting it in C.
All right, Chris?
It's an okay movie. It's got a good story to it. It's fine for what it is. For me, this will always have a sour taste in my mouth because I want a sequel to Monsters Inc., not a prequel. I want to see the furthering story from Monsters Inc. on. I don't really need a story. I don't need a movie about Mike and Sully's friendship. Save that for a Disney Plus short. It doesn't need to be a movie. Give me a sequel because that's what I really want. This movie
did a series for that, and it doesn't focus on Mike and Sully.
There is a series that I haven't watched. So
I didn't finish it because it doesn't focus on Mike and Sully.
Yeah, there you go. Movie goes into the bottom of D for me. It did some good stuff. It had some fun stuff in it, but overall, not very memorable to me. Not a whole lot there.
D?
Yes. Okay. D as in dog.
I didn't feel this movie was necessary. It had a few a lot of the cliche college frat jokes in the Monsters universe. I thought those were pretty funny. Just what would you do in that kind of circumstance? How would monsters haze each other type of thing or whatever. Otherwise, this movie was unnecessary, and I agree with my brother. I want to see what happens in the world where now we're harvesting laughs and not scares. I wanted it to go forward, not back. That being said, I saw this movie in the theater and I haven't watched it again since. F. I would put this above Cars 2, but this is one of my Fs. Nikki.
Not too much more I can add. Agree mostly with what's been said. I think the individual moments stand out more than anything else. I love the scene where Helen Mirren shows the shortcomings of Mike and Sully in their final after they release her canned laughter. I like the scene where Nathan Fillion tells Mike, no one's gonna remember if you lose, and Mike's like, well, people won't let you forget if you lose. Little moments like that I think are really potent, but the movie as a whole, just it's good. I think it's good. I'm just not strong on it. I'm C.
All right, so we got a C, D, and an F. So this is going to land firmly into D. Do we want to put this above Bug's Life and Cars?
Yes.
I'm at least fine above Cars. I don't know about Bug's Life.
Yeah, definitely above Cars.
Maybe you go with that too, Nikki?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Let's see. While I continue to move these, Chris is the next one. I kind of wanted to sing the song with this one. I would swallow my pride, turn it inside out.
Put it up.
Where do you want? How do you feel about Inside Out?
Inside Out is a movie that I actually do really like, and where I'm going to put it on the list does not reflect that, which is crazy because we're talking about Pixar. This is a situation where we're now getting to movies that I really enjoy, but just don't enjoy as much as some of the other movies on the list. I like Inside Out. I think there's a lot to like about Inside Out. I think Pixar's doing a lot of this is Pixar taking risks in terms of story and what they're able to accomplish and present, not just to kids, but to literally everybody. There's a lot of like really good themes and things to explore in this movie. And Lego, yes, the Bing Bong scene sucks. God, it hurts so much. But as far as this movie goes, there's a lot to like about it. I think there's a lot of, we're talking about like existential stuff. There's a lot of that here. Really fun and interesting look at how humans process emotions. This is one of those, I believe I've actually only seen it once. I want to rewatch it. It's probably next up on the rewatch. So for me, I think I have this as I think I have it in the B tier. Yeah. It's in B for me.
B. Okay. Let's see. So
it's an S quality movie. It's weird that I'm putting it in B.
Yeah, I agree with that. The Pixar taking risks on this because I really like the idea of like seeing the emotions personified and how they are dealing with their own emotion that they are and how that corresponds with how the person who they're in is reacting. I really like that concept. I thought it was really good. A lot of heart in this movie as well. And then also for giving us the possibility that broccoli may actually be good on a pizza. I've had a pizza that had at least broccolini on it, and it was really good. So, anyways, I was gonna say this is A tier for me. I really like the concept of it. Nikki.
I just have to say I'm so glad I'm finally with a group who's not acting like this is the greatest thing put to film. Finally. I've always contended that this movie's a teeny bit overrated. For me, just personally, I feel so ironically, I feel very little emotional connection to this movie. The emotions by design are pretty one-dimensional, and by the time, Joy learns her lesson, it's the freaking end of the movie. Riley, we don't really spend enough time with for me to feel super connected to her. And their whole relation with her is so weird. It's like they are her, but they're also looking after her. And again, you guys put it well. It's a huge risk, and I think it's a super interesting concept. And it's actually aged well for me over time. I just don't feel the connection. I feel like I'm not a huge fan of the adventure, in the recesses of her mind, personally. I feel like it's more, the ideas are more interesting than the final product. And I'm sorry, I'm not high on Bing Bong. I once had someone ask me, didn't you ever have an imaginary friend, Nikki? And I told them, probably, but I forgot about them. This is, like I said, though, I've started to appreciate it more. I've started to try not dwell on my issues with it, and I've been able to enjoy the humor a lot more as a result. For me, this is bottom of A.
Okay. And Clay.
Well, when Nikki was talking about people that think this film is phenomenal, that's me.
It's okay. It's okay.
Gotta love those moments.
I will say, I have realized over the past few years that the more a film makes me cry, the more I like it. And this film, now granted, this film actually holds the record for making me cry the fastest because the stupid lava short had me crying before the movie even started.
Yeah.
But this movie I love. I connect to it on so many different levels. The idea that Riley basically cannot feel at a certain point really hits home for me. And I mean, sorry, Nikki, I love the Bing Bong thing. I do remember having an imaginary friend. I will say, though, I feel bad for Riley that she doesn't even apparently even get to remember that she had an imaginary friend. But I love every moment of this, from joy realizing that sadness is a natural part that needs to happen, and it doesn't have to just be depressing. It can be something that helps us cope. It all connects for me, and it all makes sense to me. I don't have one favorite Pixar movie. I have a tie for my favorite Pixar movie, and this is one of them. So S tier for me.
Ooh.
Okay, so we got B, an S, and 2 A's. So this is very likely ending in like middle of A would be the actual average spot for it.
I think that's how the math works out.
I'm totally fine if we have it like between Toy Story and WALL-E. That's honestly totally perfect.
So Ratatouille is getting bumped.
Either Nemo bumps up or Ratatouille bumps down.
Well, it's because...
Yeah, okay. Do we have a preference on the direction of that? Also keeping in mind, we all know what movies are still coming up. Do we have a preference?
I was about to say, honestly, some of my favorites are the ones coming up. So
as much as I would like Nemo to be an S, I think it makes actually more sense to bump Ratatouille down at this point.
Damn it.
Yeah. Okay.
As much as I want Nemo to be an
that
S.
doesn't mean that's where it will stay, Nikki. That's just
I know. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Well, next time I'm making steaks for dinner, guess who's not getting one? Just saying.
A rat?
No, you doofus.
This is your threshold on whether or not you want to make sure your brother eats for a night, then we have some other things.
Oh, don't start that guilt shit with me. So real quick, as I'm still moving these around, we did get a super chat from Garth, who has a very interesting. It took me a second to realize what he's asking here, but he has something that he would like Clay to do. That Monsters University image there. Could you please say what those 2 letters at the top actually read out as?
Phonetically.
Moo.
Thank you, Clay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Garth. That was actually a really good joke there.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to the next one. I guess we're starting with me on this. Is it my turn to start next?
Yes, I did Inside Out. Yeah.
Okay. So next one.
Oof.
The Good Dinosaur.
Oof.
Such a good little dinosaur. This movie was just adequately, amazingly adequate. It's just very bland. It's cute. It's a nice little story. It's interesting, sort of, but it's just very, very middle of the road. Just, I have this as the lowest of D's. Nikki.
You pretty much echo everything I feel about it. But instead for me, it's F above Cars 2.
You put it above Cars 2. Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right, Clay.
I can't connect to this movie. There are things that I think are good. I like Jeffrey Wright as his dad. I like the fact that basically Jeffrey Wright and Frances McDormand are his parents.
That's an interesting combination. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Jeffrey Wright is barely in the movie.
It's true. It's true. I will say though, the best part of this movie is Sam Elliott as the T-Rex. I'm sorry. How is Sam Elliott not a cowboy in every movie? That's just who the man is. But yeah, I can't really connect to this movie. It doesn't get me. This would be the bottom of my Pixar, but I don't have an F. It's D.
All right, so D and Chris.
If we were doing a Pixar ranking based on just animation alone, this is an S tier movie. Animation wise, it's fantastic. The realistic nature, the world around it, and the photorealism of like the water, the environment, and everything is fantastic. Mm-hmm. Everything else about this movie is F. This movie is an F tier movie for me. I was having to do something else while I was watching it because I was bored out of my mind, and I love movies, so that should tell you something. It's a cute story. So it's definitely a boy and his dog story. It's fine. It's fun, I guess. But as far as being able to connect with the character and the plight of that character and just what they were doing, I didn't. It's F for me. I was not with it.
All right, so we're all on like right here. It's either hanging off of D, almost an F, or.
I mean, it's ahead of. It's definitely.
I thought the rest of you guys. Oh wait, did you say D as well?
I said D. I said the lowest of D. I could go F on this if we want to lean F.
I guess technically mine is an F. I was
gonna say there's what's gonna be. What else is gonna really be an F realistically?
I'm still gonna put Cars 2 under it though.
Yes, 100%.
I mean,
I'm sorry, Glenn. I'm sorry.
F that movie.
I have to relook at my list because I don't know why I have Cars 2 above it. That's weird.
Yeah, some of these, I had certain opinions going into this, and y'all are kind of convincing me along the way, oh, that is something I didn't think about. I actually do appreciate the movie for that. Okay, I'm going to change my ranking.
Funnily enough, I think I do enjoy Cars 2 more than the original Cars because at least there's something fun and fancy about Cars 2, I guess. But
it's actually pretty close for me.
I don't know.
All right, so moving on.
Nerd, you can click edit. Yes, I know.
So next one, starting with Nikki.
Oh my gosh.
Finding Dory.
Ooh.
I think because I am not as high on Nemo as most people, to me, this initially was not as bad as I thought it was, as I expected when I first saw it. And then upon rewatch, I was so underwhelmed. Ed O'Neill is definitely the best part of this entire movie. And then there's maybe a couple scenes I think are okay. I think the oyster or whatever that shell thing that Marla Nemo me, I thought that was funny. Otherwise, I do not need to see this ever again. I mean, I'm sure I will at some point, but this is at top of F right now.
Top of F.
Wow. Ooh.
Not because it's only because everything else coming is better than it to me.
Yeah. Okay. Clay.
Okay. I told you guys before we got started that I had a film that no one would expect my reaction to.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
This is it.
Brace for impact.
I don't know what it is, but no, I know what it is, and I'm going to explain it. I love this movie. There is, and a lot of it is very personal. Number one, I think that it's hilarious. I was laughing throughout the film. But number two, the way that it deals with parenting a special needs child is beautiful to me. I just love the way that they depict this with Dory. Her whole struggle. Honestly, I'm rooting harder for her to get back to her parents than I was for Marlin to find Nemo, and I loved that movie. But in this, it's so connected. It's so personal to me. The way that they deal with, this disability or, special needs situation in such a way is so well done. So Diane Keaton and Eugene Levy as her parents are phenomenal. And I really connect to this movie. And it was another one for me that on the first, I've watched this 3 times. The first time I watched it, didn't really care. Thought it was, better than I expected. Second time I watched it, I was like, I really liked that. Do I like this movie? And then this last time I was like, yeah, sorry. This is one of my top Pixar movies. This is in my S tier.
That is so far we've got 1 F and 1 S. That is the most widest margin we've had so far on this. Chris,
don't make me go after Clay on this.
you picked the wrong time to be right above him.
I fully expect the rest of you to side with Nikki. It's fine.
I love that my brother is insulated because he doesn't mind tearing my opinion apart. So he always gets to go after me or before anybody else. So jerk. Here's the thing. This is another example of a movie that I believe is good. I've only watched it once, and it's probably time for a rewatch on this one. I love Finding Nemo. And so any goodwill this movie has is definitely carry over from that for sure. Outside of that, it's due for a rewatch because I don't remember much from this movie. That's kind of where it is for me right now. There's a chance that on a rewatch, I could bump this up into a higher level. But for right now, while I do remember liking it just fine and knowing that I love Finding Nemo, this one is in C for me. I believe that's where I have it, right? It's in C. It's in that C tier for me. So that's, I don't remember much from it, but I remember liking it just okay. But to everything Clay just said, I definitely want to rewatch it now.
All right. Thank you, Garth, because nothing says Pixar like Russian bots. Anyways.
Know your audience.
Yeah, great timing on
watching this.
Yeah, that was awesome. Anyways, so for Finding Dory, I thought it was cute. It was a cute little sequel. I didn't fully think of when I was jotting down notes. I didn't fully think of like what Clay was saying as far as like the origin of Dory with her parents. I did really like that aspect of it. A lot of this movie, other than that, I thought like a lot of this movie was a rehash of Finding Nemo, which makes sense. That was the point of this movie. The stuff they did with Dory, the characterization, the octopus was fantastic in this. I absolutely agree with that. Ed O'Neill was wonderful. And then I still really like the voice of Sigourney Weaver over the aquarium. That's so good.
Especially the way they talk to her. Yeah.
Yeah. That was so funny. I would put this as a C tier though. It's not one I'm probably likely to go back and watch again unless we're doing some kind of like a watch along. And I was like, okay, sure. So I would put this C.
I would say this is a better example of what Cars 2 was trying to do. This movie was handled it better, where you're maybe your comedic character or your supporting character taking the lead role actually works a little bit more than Cars 2 did.
Yeah. And yeah, the to the testament of that is the fact that Cars 2, Mater is not a character. Mater is Larry the Cable Guy. He has Larry the Cable Guy sayings, and it's just Larry the Cable Guy in a cartoon form. Yeah. While Dory, I don't look at Dory as Ellen DeGeneres. I look at her as Dory.
Dory.
Yeah.
So that's that. I feel like that's the difference. That's where you get the comparison there. So we got S, F, and C. So, I mean, theoretically, this should be hovering somewhere between B and C as far as the averages go. Do we have a preference one way or another? Oh, good Lord.
I'm fine with this going to C. Because I think that's probably closer to the consensus.
Yeah, I don't mind if it's below or above Brave. Either way is fine.
Okay. So I'll stick it below Brave. Next one. So we're starting with Clay on this. This will be Cars 3.
Oh. I was hoping it was the one after this. Cars 3. So this is very much like Monsters University for me. I actually really, out of all of the films, I enjoy the message of this, or the Cars films. I enjoy the message of this the most, but it doesn't stick to me. I get bored while watching this movie, and I feel bad about it because I do like what it's saying, and I like where it ends up, but in the middle, it just doesn't connect to me. This is a D for me.
D. Okay. Chris?
It's my favorite of the 3 Cars movies. I like the story the most. I had the most fun with this one out of the 3. I still am lost in this world. So while I like it the most, I probably won't revisit it. Had to watch it for the first time for this ranking. So that and Cars 2. While I like this one the most, we're back to Lightning McQueen being the central focus. I like the idea of him trying to decide his own pathway, his own future. Is it my time yet? I get to decide that kind of stuff. Good story. I'm just not with the Cars. The Cars, I disconnected with the Cars still. I think I have this one in D tier for me.
D. Okay. So I agree. This is, in my opinion, also this is the best of the 3 Cars movies. I do like him Lightning dealing with personal issues, but like still not knowing that he's actually helping and encouraging others while he's dealing with his own stuff. I feel like that is a great thing that I feel like could be a good analog for how people are. Like, we are all dealing with our own struggles, but we don't realize that there's stuff that while we're dealing with our own personal demons, something that we're doing is actually helping others who are dealing with stuff as well. And I love that comparison in this. I had this in B because I actually thought this was, for a Cars movie, this was very well done, good story. I loved it. So I
weirdo.
Yeah, I know. I want to put it in B.
Wait, what?
B. Nikki.
I mean, I think I pretty much am with Clay on this. I like the idea of him being like the veteran who's kind of going like he's on his way out. I love Cruz in theory as being this person who like gets the dream that they're not expecting, but again, it doesn't stick with me. This is a D film.
Yeah. D. All right, so this is going to lean heavily in D. So you want to put it in D. We definitely want to put it above the first Cars.
I wouldn't, but I mean, I think based on everyone's consensus, probably it will.
I'm fine with that.
What about over Monsters University or Bugs Life?
I'd put it under Monsters University.
I would too.
I think I ranked it over Monsters University, but I'm actually fine with it being under too, because at that point in the D tier, they're kind of all interchangeable for me. So,
okay.
Except for Bugs Life. Bugs Life has more nostalgia meaning for me, but that's all that is.
All right. So next one is it to me?
Me.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one is Coco.
So I said I had a few movies that I have hot takes on. A lot of people love this movie, and I do think it's a good movie. It's a great movie, great story. Honestly, It's Pixar again. This is hard. This is where it starts getting hard because Pixar is good. They did a good job with this movie. It's a good story. It's great. It didn't connect. Obviously, didn't connect with me as much as some other movies on this list. Again, good nerd. Stop it. You don't understand. We're in a situation now where good movies go in lower tiers, in my opinion, because better movies, in my opinion, are in the higher tiers. So, while I do think this is a good movie, I do like it, and I do need to rewatch it again. It is as a B. I have it more towards the top of C. C for Coco. Good movie, good story, but other movies on the list just hit me and connect with me emotionally more than this movie did.
I'm pretty much going to agree with him. I like the family aspect of it. I love the whole the idea of we're crossing over to like the land of the dead type of thing. I thought that was a really cool idea. Granted, I don't connect with this movie culturally, and not saying that just because the movie is not white, I'm not going to connect with it. There's another movie that has very heavy cultural aspects that I feel like I connected with a lot more than I do with the ones in Coco. Even though I'm raised in Texas, I understand what they're doing with this movie. Because like a lot of Hispanic, Day of the Dead, this is all something that we do see all the time here. Yeah. But yeah, it just, I didn't connect with it. Just a lot of it was family, and I just don't connect with that family, I feel like would be the way to put it. Cute movie though. I like the story it told. I like the fun, like little twists that it had in it. But yeah, I would probably put this in C as well.
Nerd is pretty close to right here too. This is also one of the best looking Pixar movies.
Yeah. Nikki.
I have very complicated feelings about this movie. It's gorgeous. When I first saw this, I thought this was top 5 Pixar. But the more I think about it, the more, and you just hit how you like the family aspect. I was just talking about how I love the family Incredibles. I love how Up addresses blood related family. The family's movie is freaking annoying in the sense that I'm sorry, they're stupid to have this music ban because over 4 generations, I get why Mama Imelda was so hurt by Hector leaving them, but the fact that she takes it out to such an insane measure with no one questioning it for 4 generations is literal stupidity and insanity. And I just hate the idea that everyone else in the family has to go along with it strictly because they're family. And that's the only reason. That to me is, and I know that a lot of people relate to that. That just pisses me off so freaking much. And I think the film was a little bit cowardly in, Miguel looks up to Ernesto and he thinks that he's his great-great-grandfather. Oh no, he murdered Hector. Oh, but don't worry, you're not actually related to him. This nice guy you've been with the whole time, he's your actual great-great. How, what if he had to deal with that? Hey, this person you were related to this whole time, yeah, he's not great, but it's okay because you can find other people who will treat you well in life. This, I'm just so, it's just all of it. But again, it's so tough because there's so much that is great about this movie. Like I said, the visuals, the performances, I think it does have a lot of great humor. But the other issue I have is for a movie that's so big on music, as great as Remember Me is as a song, I never go back to it. I never listened to it except when I'm watching the movie. So it's so tough because I do think it is a genuinely really good movie. I just it's so hard for me to get over that hump. And I'm sorry. I know that everyone talks about how Alma from Encanto is the worst grandmother ever. Grandma Abuela Elena for destroying Miguel's guitar. To me, that would, if I was that grandkid, I would consider that unforgivable because it was honestly just so unnecessary and harmful. So for me, this is a B.
B. All right, Clay.
Wow, I really did not expect my takes to be so opposite from you guys. This is the other film that's tied for my number one Pixar film. I love this movie. There's every time I watch it, I love it more. There are things personally that connect with me. The whole idea of being in love with something that you feel like your family at the very least just doesn't understand, and then discovering that you actually have a connection in your family that gets it. You just never realized it, that kind of thing. I love that. I love the just him learning the importance and the connection of family, and put the emotional stuff on the side for a second. Visually, I remember watching this film in the theater, leaning over to my... Am I still here? Okay, yeah. Leaning over to my sister and saying, I feel like I could reach out and touch Coco's skin. Like, that is how, like, real it looked. It was insane. But, on top of that, the end scene where, he reminds Coco of just waterworks every single time. Just can't not get into that. So yeah, this is S tier for me.
All right.
Just throwing a spanner into the works. That's what I do.
So we've got C, C, B, and S.
Good luck.
That would either be like bottom
low A or
low A or
top
high
B.
B.
Yeah.
I think right now you put it high B.
I'll be honest. I don't feel strongly enough about Wall-E. I can put it in front of or below it.
I think that makes sense.
Either knock Wall-E down or...
I mean, I have it above Wall-E, but I hate knocking Wall-E out of A. I mean,
I would say I did enjoy Coco more than Wall-E. So I would probably put it above Wall-E. Chris?
I mean, I think there's a significance to this movie beyond how it just connects with me, that if I look at the big picture of it, it probably deserves to be higher than my opinion of it is. And so it makes, if we're being objective, I think it makes sense to throw it up in A, in which case maybe you do have to bump Wall-E down at that point.
Let me test something here. Can I move? No, I can't. All right. Well, whatever.
Trying to move two at the same time.
Yeah, I was trying to, but...
Well, shrink it down. Let's bring up the next one while you move stuff around.
Yeah. So that was Coco. So,
well, you have to start anyway.
Yeah.
We need to hire an engineer who can handle this stuff for us.
Yeah, so we have someone on the side doing this. Next one, Incredibles 2.
I think starting with Robert.
So this one's starting with me. Gonna move it like that. It was cute. It was a good sequel. I mean, the first Incredibles was really good. I'm surprised it took as long as it took to get Incredibles 2 to come out. But I thought it was an okay movie, just a very basic, generic superhero movie. Kind of actually felt like the second Fantastic Four movie, only without the Silver Surfer. Yeah, the Icy Surfer with Frozone. There's a twist in this movie that I feel like every single person saw coming if you watched the trailer. And so I don't think it was that surprising or shocking or anything.
If she was British, her name would be Evil Endeavor.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I would put this like maybe high D, low C. It's not F. It's still watchable. It's an enjoyable superhero movie, but yeah, I would probably go with like low C at this point.
So I really liked it when I first saw it, but I think for me it's kind of lost like any kind of not relevancy, but any kind of attachment since then. I think it's very solid. I think the idea of Evelyn being kind of having the completely opposite goal of Syndrome was an interesting idea. I think what I'm kind of bummed out about this movie is like they really promoted Sophia Bush as Void, like the excited fangirl for Elastigirl, and they have all these new heroes and they give them like no attention because they brought back so many characters from the first one. It's like you literally can't focus on all of them. So I think this was one where again, ideas were kind of great. I just don't think they executed them perfectly. I think all the performances are great. It still looks great. But, and you know what? Shout out to Jack, and it was a raccoon, I believe. That was a great scene. But other than that, I think it's good, but not great. I go top of C.
All right. Clay?
Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad movie, but honestly, when I look at it objectively, it doesn't add anything. I don't. I like the fact that we get to see Elastigirl in action. Kind of focuses on her a bit more. But other than that, I really feel like this movie wasn't necessary. So low C, high D.
All right. Chris?
If it's not a Toy Story sequel, Pixar doesn't really know what they're doing with it as far as sequels go. Incredibles, fine. Again, the original Incredibles, fine, good, decent. This one, it hits that same chord for me, which is I don't remember much from it other than the Jack stuff. Other than that, I don't remember literally almost anything else in this movie. And I don't know. I don't even know if I really want to go back and rewatch it in comparison to all the other movies that I need to watch in my life right now. So for me, it's definitely a D tier. I do remember liking it more than Monsters University. So if you ask me, I'm putting it above Monsters University, but underneath Bug's Life, because again, Bug's Life is good to me. So
it sounds like it's going to go here at the end of C.
It's not what I said.
I know.
What was its highest ranking?
C.
Okay.
Is this like the most agreement we've probably had? So
That's the closest, actually.
Other than Cars 2?
Yeah. Let's see how the agreement works on this one. Move it over. Let's go with Toy Story 4.
Oh, God. I believe I start with this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This one is okay. The biggest issue this movie has is the fact that it's part of the Toy Story franchise, because you have this massive expectation going into it after they had what I believe was the perfect conclusion with 3, 9 years afterwards. So it's so tough going into it with that expectations. If you don't think of it in those terms, I find it to be very enjoyable and funny. I think Ducky and Bunny are hilarious. I think Duke Kaboom is hilarious. I even think Giggles, the little police officer, Polly Pocket, is pretty cute and funny. My biggest issues are, I mean, we kind of touched on it earlier, like basically everyone who's not Woody or Buzz gets sidelined, and like, which is hilarious to me because it's like girl power with Bo Peep, but let's sideline the most important female character in the whole franchise, and now she does get to do more than everyone else. But also, I really hate the running gag of Buzz with the conscious thing. To me, it was just not funny.
I actually like that, but
which is totally fair. To me, it just wasn't very funny, and to me, it seemed like such a weird like reversal of his character development that we've had. But again, like, not my biggest issue. I also think they really pushed some of the believability of the things the toys were doing, and somehow no human realized it, especially with the GPS thing. It's like, what? Like, I mean, I already know they were like kind of treading delicate waters before. That was just insane. Like, that Bonnie's parents like were that dumb. But again, I think it's pretty funny. Again, I I don't love it. I think it's definitely the weakest. But honestly, all things considered, my parents laughed so hard when they watched this with me. It's enjoyable the less I think of it as a Toy Story movie. And I think it's a great adventure for Woody in particular. And like, at least it's for me, it at least serves development for him. So for me, this is a B.
All right. Clay?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Nikki says. I will say this is probably fourth for me as in terms of my Toy Story ranking. At times, I could go back and forth between that and one, but I think in my opinion, what hurts it the most is the fact that Toy Story 3 was a great ending. Toy Story 4, I think, tells a good story. I think it tells a decent story of, oh, you can keep telling this story. But it wasn't like we needed to tell this story. It was just a good way to continue the story. Plus, honestly, at this point, you know, we lost Jim Varney 2 movies ago. Don Rickles died out. And John I mean, like you said, the majority of our other toys that we've been with for, 3 movies are sidelined. John Ratzenberger doesn't do much in this film. I already said my favorite character, Jessie, doesn't get much going on in this. Honestly, the most she gets is to remind us that, yes, she still has PTSD. It's still something she's dealing with. I appreciate that. But other than that, I do like that we get Annie Potts back as Bo, and I like what they do with that. As a whole, I actually really like this movie. If this was just, if I wasn't putting it up against anything, I'd just be like, yeah, hey. But when I have to think about everything together, I'm like, yeah, B. It's B.
Yeah.
Okay. Chris?
I agree completely with Clay. I think this is definitely the fourth. Obviously, it's the fourth movie in the Toy Story franchise. It's also the fourth in, I think, any kind of ranking of the Toy Story movies. It is, again, it's exactly the same. What hurts it the most is Toy Story 3 having come before it. It is a great story. It's got a lot going for it. It tells a actually valid story, a really good, valid story. It wasn't necessary. If they never made this movie, I don't think I would not be hurt. I would be none the wiser. Having made this movie, I do remember crying. I teared up in this movie. It definitely hit me emotionally. It is a Toy Story movie, and therefore, again, it is probably one of the better sequels of any Pixar movie sequels. But as good of a movie as it is, and as valid of a story as it told, it still was not a necessary movie. I love it. And that's it. It's the Toy Story sequel that I watched the least out of all the Toy Story movies. So
which tier?
I have it B.
I have it B.
Well, I guess I'm not sticking this in S. I like this movie only because the last movie was like what happens to toys when the kids who own the toys grow up? What happens to them? How do the kids move on from the toys and whatnot? This is a movie of essentially towards the end, it's like, what happens when the toys themselves, now that we know that they're sentient and alive and have feelings, emotions, opinions on their own, what happens when they realize that they don't belong anymore? So I kind of like that aspect of it. I absolutely love Forky. Forky is just such an insane character. But I feel like I can connect with Forky on that emotional level because of all the anxiety and stuff that Forky goes through. Not that I'm anxiety ridden all the time, but I understand those feelings, those emotions that Forky is dealing with the whole time in this. Otherwise, like, I thought it was a really good sequel until the three of y'all talked before me. And now I'm questioning like everything in my life and what I believe on or in. I would have to agree. I think y'all have convinced me. I did have this movie rated a lot higher than I thought, but yeah, I think I would agree that I feel like this does come down to an A or B, mainly because reiterating that the third one feels like such a good cap on a trilogy. After that, there's no reason to continue telling the story. It's like if they made a 9th season of the TV show Scrubs. It feels like it was done completely fine at the end of the 8th. There was no need to do that if they were to have ever done that. Just using a random TV show as an example.
Yeah,
but
that's a spin-off, not a season 9.
They never did one.
Not a good one.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I would put this probably like A or B now. I mean, the three of y'all have already said B, so I'm going to concede to B.
Yeah, I think it's B.
But where in B does it go now?
I personally would put below all those, but
I was going to say I'd put it right in the open spot at the end.
Yeah.
This is like the most agreeable for spots. Like I feel like I'm not having to spend as much time moving movies around this.
Which is crazy.
I'd put it above Ratatouille, but that's me.
Oh, that would be hard to disagree for me.
No, this Mies goes in this plus right here. So
perfect.
I would put it above
above Incredibles.
I would not.
Yeah, that's me.
I mean, I'm not gonna fight, but
I'm fine with making that concession.
All right, let's do that then.
It's closer to the spot I would have it.
So I'll move Incredibles here in a second. Next one. Going with, let's see, I was the last one to go, so this will be Clay, starting with Onward.
Oh man, I keep getting to start with the movies that aren't my favorites.
Hey, I like that sometimes.
This film for me is a solid C. I like a lot of what it does, but I don't think that it fully connects as well as it could. I think that this film, to me, is a great example of a film that had great potential to really hit and just somehow missed the mark a little bit. I like what it's doing. I like what it says, but to me, it doesn't really nail it. So for me, it's a solid C.
Chris?
I have this movie in my A tier. It did connect with me. This is an example of where a movie doesn't connect with one person, does connect with another person. It hits me on the level because I love my brother so much.
How many brothers do you have?
Nice. No, there's something about like, again, if we're talking about Pixar, most of these movies usually are good at wringing some tears out of my face. This one definitely did, still did. I love everything comes down to what they did in the final act, I feel like, for this movie, and the way it played out in that final act, I feel like is what it makes the entire movie. It's what I don't know what else I could say besides that. It's just it was really well done for me in terms of like the decisions the characters made, who got to hang out with dad at the last possible second. I feel like this movie for me does more for family than Incredibles does. I feel like this movie touches on family stuff that connects with me a lot more than Incredibles did. And so for me, this one's a lot higher. I put this one in my A tier.
Yeah. I put this in F because I hate brothers. I hate having one and just carting them around. Yeah, it's super annoying.
Nice.
Screw you!
So no, I had this down as it's a great adventure movie. It's kind of in the same vein as like Raiders of the Lost Ark or National Treasure. We're on a hunt for something. With a small hint of Weekend at Bernie's, which is never a bad thing. There needs to be a lot more Weekend and Bernie's and everything just going forward. I do also really like the brotherly aspect of it. The two brothers on this adventure, everything with like connecting with Dad at the end. I liked how that all went. In all honesty and emotions aside, this movie made me really happy to have a brother. So,
oh my God, you cheeseball.
Man, now if only I could find them somewhere, because I miss them deeply. But I would put this A tier.
Oh, I feel like such a monster now.
Do you not have a brother?
No.
Oh, okay.
But this is, again, I'm definitely with Clay on this. I think it's a very solid movie. I very much enjoy it. I think Tom Holland is really good in it, and I kind of like I love how Ian is kind of like this awkward kid, and like at the beginning where like he wants to get things done, and like he's scared. It's like that part's the most relatable part to me personally. I also, this is such a small thing. I love that they avoided the cliche of Barley comes in and the popular kids are gonna make fun of him. No, like that doesn't happen. Thank goodness that we're past that cliche. Yeah. So that's a small thing, but I loved that. But yeah, like. Beyond that, like the adventure, it's fine. It just didn't connect with me a whole lot. The humor didn't really connect with me. I like Corey's big blow up when she decides, she wants to go back to being the Manticore. I was just kind of like, this comes off super awkwardly to me. Like it just wasn't funny if that was the intention. And I like that they were ballsy with the ending but they didn't get the perfect exact ending that they were hoping for. But I feel like Pixar movies do that a lot. So I think it's totally solid, but again, and it's just because I don't have the older brother or the same kind of exact kind of family connection. But for me, this is a C.
I think it'd also be remiss to say that the story behind this movie being made is a very touching and impactful one too for the director as well. So that's a huge plus, I think, for this movie as well, is just the story behind it.
Right. And by all means, like this came out like just as COVID hit. So yeah. I hate that like the box office that it has will always be tied to it, because that's just not fair to it at all.
No, that's really not fair to it.
It's hard to view this movie as good when life just sucked at that time.
So we got 2 A's and 2 C's. So obviously this is going to go like mid B.
Yeah. I would say below Ratatouille and knock Incredibles down, which I hate that Incredibles is so low, but it's whatever.
Haha, it ends up where I put it. Haha.
So while I do that, because that's gonna be a lot of shuffling around, for the essence of time, Chris,
me,
tell us about your soul.
We don't have enough time for me to bear the entire thing. This, I feel like, and I think a lot of people might agree with this, I'm just putting that out there at the top. I feel like this is a spiritual successor to Inside Out. This is, again, Pixar taking a risk at a higher concept than just general, let's explore life for a certain group of something. This is the most, I think this is the most adult movie of all of these movies. Like, this is the one that I feel like, I don't know, I wasn't a kid when this movie came out, so I don't know if kids really grasp onto this movie, or if they just go, haha, funny kitty the entire time, or funny colored shapes of spirits or whatnot. I don't know. But for me, I really, really enjoyed this movie. Again, this might also be a testament to COVID time, where we have like a hopeful sounding story that just lands right at the time where you need it to. I love his, connection with the arts. Obviously he's playing music here, but that's huge for me. There's a lot to like about this, and I feel like this was one of those like big risks that Pixar took that I feel like did pay off, in my opinion. I know it's like there's a lot of love and nostalgia for a lot of movies that came before for Pixar, but it's cool to see Pixar this many years later putting out movies that I still hold to be as big of wins as much as some of the earlier fare. So this one is another A tier for me. So A. So
So this movie, I love the music, the emotions, the story, the humor, everything that this movie did. I absolutely adored it. This is one of my S tiers. This movie's just so good. So, Nikki.
I think I'm always going to be a little biased towards this movie because it came out Christmas Day 2022, as did Wonder Woman 1984. My parents and I watched Wonder Woman first. We're all very disappointed.
I think everybody did that.
Yeah.
Right. But then we watched this the next day. So I'm wondering if we were all influenced by like, wow, this was so much better.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness,
I watched this first.
Gotcha. But my parents, again, I'm a little biased. My parents really enjoyed watching this. And I think you're completely correct. It's the most adult. But like you were saying, compared to Inside Out, it took the big leap. I think it did it better personally, just because the world building I think was done super well. I liked The Great Before. I loved the Jerrys. They're so ridiculous, but they worked for me. And what's interesting is I feel like this is a weirdly mismarketed film, because I think if you see the trailer, you think it's about death. It's not about death at all. It's about life and the way you go about life. And I love the message so much. Now, by all means, this movie did not make me cry. And I kind of agree the cat stuff was a little weird with the body swap, but I love the message of how, like, and there's no problem if you're ambitious, but you know what? It's okay to live for the small things in life, like pizza, because that's important in life, right? So I think Jamie Foxx is really good. 22, I could live with or without them, but I think on the whole, the movie just worked very, very well for me. And I think also as a working adult, like, he has to debate if he wants to pursue his dream or a super stable job. And here's your list of benefits. It's like, that's super relatable for me, at least. So this is a very solid A.
I did like real quick that you're saying it was mismarketed. Yeah, because there was absolutely no evidence in any of the trailer that he spends like 70% of this movie as a cat. That was not in the trailer at all.
True. No.
Yes.
Clay.
So for me, this film is the epitome of a film I wish I connected to more than I do. I like everything. Like, you lay this on, lay it all out, and I look at this and I say, I should love this movie. And I like it. I really do. But I hear everybody saying how great this movie and how much that it affected them and how much they connect to it. And I think the biggest thing is people comparing it to Inside Out. I don't get anywhere close to this that I did with Inside Out. I like this film and I love the concepts. I also love the Jerrys. I mean, and the casting alone, Richard Iowati, Rachel House. I love, Daveed Diggs. Love Felicia Rashad, for crying out loud, is in this movie. So I love a lot of the things going on in this movie, but it never really hit me on that deeper level that I think that I was really hoping it would, which might be why it didn't. I just I like it, but I don't love it. So for me, it's a low A, high B.
Wow, I think that's actually not far off from almost total agreement. We're not far.
Yeah, we're all hovering. It's rough. It's gonna go into A. But now we're getting closer, since we're getting towards the end of the list here. Now we're at the point where we put something in an A, and something that's currently in A is probably going to bump up to S.
Yep.
Now,
put Nemo in S.
I mean, I was going to say, I personally have it above Nemo or Toy Story, but I'm not going to fight. If you want to bump up Nemo, that's okay with me.
I would put it under Toy
I'd rather
Story,
do that than knock Coco down.
I actually do have one other movie on this list that I would put in S.
So do we want to put this between Toy Story and Inside Out?
I have a couple more. Yeah.
So Toy Story and Inside Out, and bump Nemo up to S.
I'm okay with that.
Filling up the blank space with random singing.
So next one, I keep forgetting who's starting each of these.
I did
I
Soul.
think it's
So,
I
yeah.
think it's actually you because Chris started Soul, I believe.
Oh
Just
yeah,
like-
So this is going to be me. This will be interesting. Funny story about this movie, which is Luca. So I remember when this came out and everyone was like, this is just, yeah. I started watching it and I too, like in the first like 10, 15 minutes, I was like, and I turned it off. And then of course I'm doing like, hey, we're going to do a Pixar ranking. I need to watch Luca. So I sat down and watched Luca. I really liked it. I thought it was really cute. It was like the boy version of the Little Mermaid is the way I thought of it. An Italian male Little Mermaid story, essentially. It did kind of seem a little formulaic with it. And the villain, the adult that's trying to win a kid's triathlon was absolutely stupid. I hate that guy. If that was something in real life, that would be the type of dude that I would just be nonchalantly just walk up to, just punch him in the face, and then
Which
walk
makes him
away.
the perfect villain.
He's just, oh yeah, you hate him. You absolutely hate him. But the problem that I have with it is the story hates him. And I don't like it when I want the story to build up my villains. I mean, if I'm looking at upper echelon of great villains in Disney movies, you've got like the top tiers like Scar. All right, you got a villain that's been built up by its own story. This one just...
I'm sorry, he's a classic, pardon my language, chicken shit heel.
Yeah.
He's that, and I love that type of villain.
Hey, now your turn.
I know.
But I did like this movie. I would put it B tier.
All right. Before I get into my thoughts on the film, okay, listen to this opening. You have a non-human boy who lives with his family, who works on a farm, who's swept away by another boy who's more rambunctious into a new world that he's not familiar with. What movie am I talking about? Luca or The Good Dinosaur?
That
I started this movie and I was in the same boat as Robert. I was so freaking bored. And I as the Pixar fanatic I am, I was like, how could this be? Like, how is this another Good Dinosaur? Like, in terms of both quality and literally the story. And I'll say this, though. Once I got past that opening, I was very into it. I thought it was super cute. What is funny that I just have to bring this up. My boyfriend comes from a very large, very Italian family, and they all hate this movie so much. So I probably have a little bit of bias. And for me, I think it's solid. I think it's super cute. I love Luca and Alberto. I love Julia. I love the cat whose name I'm blanking on. I think he's hilarious. For me, the only reason this is only as low as it is because I just love all the other movies more. So unfortunately, this has to be a high D for me. I'm so sorry.
Clay. This is one of your S tiers, isn't it?
It is actually.
Oh God.
Every time I watch this movie, I like it more. I swear. And I've seen it at least 3 times. First of all, I love the aesthetic of this because it at once, it harkens back to stop motion. It's tactile in a false way, which is really interesting. And also, even the first time I watched it, I was like, it reminds me of Miyazaki. Like, it's just so pleasant. But honestly, the more that I watch this film, I absolutely love the friendship at the core of this. Alberto and Luca, the story of their friendship here is beautiful. The whole, we get the backstory of why Alberto was on the island, which is heartbreaking. You know, the whole thing at the end where, you know, they end up parting and Luca wonders, he asks if he's going to be okay. And he's like, you got me off the island. I'm going to be okay. Waterworks. I love this movie. Love the connections between these characters. And the whole, you know, discrimination allegory going on here is also something very personal to me. I just really enjoy this film. So yeah, it's one of my S tiers.
Man, I was just like trying to make a joke, but that, I mean, very well said. Chris,
welcome to the fun of the show. I didn't realize this was going to be one of my hot takes. This is the very bottom of my list. I do not like this movie.
So, Chris, real quick, in your opinion, what's worse, your position here or your position with Lego on the the Nicolas Cage one?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay.
At this point, this is the Bruno that I need to be silencioed. I've never been more disinterested in anything happening in a movie. Well, that's not true. That's a very bold statement. In a Pixar movie, I've never been more disinterested in anything happening in a Pixar movie, I should say. There's not a second of anything that happened in this movie that I connected with. I was like, 5 minutes in, I was like, this movie's already lost me. That's not to say it isn't pretty. It's a pretty movie. I actually don't connect with the animation as much, though I guess the environments and stuff look good. The colors look great. I just am not on board with Luca. I don't know what else to say. It's like, this movie just didn't connect with me. It's not that it's a bad movie necessarily, because I think, like Clay was saying, I think when it comes down to Pixar, almost any Pixar movie can connect with anybody. It's what the story is and what's going on with that person, their experiences, their life. Totally on board with Luca connecting with people. Love that movies that I don't like connect with people. I'm totally for movies that I dislike for any reason being loved by other people. I think it justifies a movie's existence in that case. This is my bottom F tier. I would even watch Cars 2 again, honestly. Over
God, no.
Yeah. Wow. There's at least something fun about Cars 2, I guess. This movie didn't have anything fun to me. I guess this is going to end up my hottest take. There's pasta. God.
Yes, pasta and pizza in 2 movies back to back. I'm not
intentionally going to watch Luca again. I'm just not.
Also, I did really love Maya Rudolph's performance. She's had a couple great few animated roles.
She plays great moms.
Yes.
Okay, so mathematically, yes, I'm actually doing math at this point because we were all over the board with this one. There's an S, an F, and a B, and a D. So mathematically,
I think
should go in the middle of B.
Does it? It's so far away from what I said.
I was thinking towards the top of C.
I can do I'm okay with top of C or move Toy Story or Onward down. Any of those permutations is totally okay with me.
So, you have an option here is depending on where it goes, it can either bump one up, which would put Toy Story in S, or we're bumping Cars down to F.
Well, here's the thing. We have 2 more movies, and like I don't think either of them are going to be an F, so we probably have to bump down at this point.
That's true.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So
I would at this point, I would go ahead and preemptively just move both Cars 3 and Cars probably down to F.
Looking at the other 2 movies, I have a fairly good idea of like at least how the bottoms of it's going to go. So do we want to put Luca above Incredibles?
I mean, I would, but
I wouldn't, but I it's okay. I'm gonna lose that battle.
or above Between Incredibles and Brave?
I put above Brave for sure.
As low as possible for me.
So Between Incredibles and Brave sound good?
I sound so mean. I hate that I sound so mean. Like,
it's okay. It's okay.
All right. So I'm gonna put it between Incredibles and Brave while we talk about Turning Red.
Wait, whose turn is it?
You started with
Nikki's.
Yeah, I believe it's Nikki's.
Oh.
All right. So this has been an interesting 2022 for Pixar because my boyfriend and I have both said that there's been a Pixar movie that's come out this year that was just made for each of us. And maybe it's too much of a cliche, but Turning Red, holy hell. And maybe it's because it's such a bizarre concept that I think I kind of went to it just like a little, I was excited but a little bit skeptical. Holy hell. Now, this is by no means my favorite. And I mean, there's also some recency bias, but this movie was such a blast to me. The humor worked so well. Like, to me, the worst part of the movie is her little montage in the beginning where she's like kind of just explaining, info dumping everything on you. Once you're past that, to me, everything is smooth sailing. And I know like there's been all like the stupid controversies of like, it's so perverted, blah, blah, periods, whatever. And to me, it's like, no, it's like, that's such... First of all, that's a very simplistic take. To me, it's more just general like changes as you get older, like more generally speaking, I feel like. And May and her friends like are such a fun group to just follow. And like the way they just monetize everything, it's so insane. And by all means, like you can nitpick and say like, that's not like the early 2000s, but it's just so much fun. I think Sandra Oh is incredibly good as her mother Ming. I think all the stuff with Four Town is really fun. And maybe it's because I grew up as a hardcore anime fan, and the third act where everything just completely goes batshit, I lived for that. That was a blast when they have to have Four Town sing to help them like turn back. It was, this movie is just so much fun to me. And like, I haven't rewatched it, but I've watched some good reaction videos, and this movie just brings a smile to my face. I enjoy it so tremendously.
What tier you put it in?
Sorry. It's so tough. It's like just outside of my top 10 right now. So unfortunately it's a B movie, but like I really enjoy it. It's again, that's only because I don't want to rate it too high too early, and it could end up in my top 10. Right now it's like top of B, bottom of A.
Okay. And Clay.
I'm not afraid to rate it too high too early. This is my last S tier. I love this movie. I for everything that Nikki said, and honestly, I love it for all the reasons that it is being attacked, because it addresses those things. I think that May-Lin is a wonderfully, beautifully quirky character, and I love her and her relationship with her friends. I love that they are the reason that she can keep calm. The whole thing with her and disconnecting from her mother, all that kind of the family drama. I love all of it. I really, really enjoy this movie. And I like that it is from a perspective that is completely different from mine, but I totally relate to it at the same time. Really top notch. S.
Yes. Okay. Chris?
Yep. This is my other S tier. I agree with both of them. I completely love this movie. From the second I watched it, I was having so much fun with this movie. It's just, I don't know. I think also because it's weird because different country, different culture, different almost everything from me. But she was, I believe, the age I was in 2002.
13.
So there's a little something there. I was like, hey, I remember that time period. I remember there being like boy bands like that around then that were weirdly named Four Town, even though there's 5 of them. That's there's so much else to this movie. I think, yeah, everything that was mentioned, it's quirky, it's fun. There's the whole third act was bonkers, and I didn't expect this movie to be a kaiju movie, but it turned into a kaiju movie out of nowhere, and I thought that was hilariously interesting and fun and just a unique choice. This for out of almost all the more recent Pixar movies feels the most like back to form in terms of just excellent storytelling and animation and everything. It just feels nice and tight, like a nice tight story in by itself. So it's odd for me to have like a recent Pixar movie to be the S tier, because I've got nostalgia glasses like crazy for a lot of these movies, but it's I think it's a testament to how good it is that it overrides that nostalgia for me and goes up in the S tier as well.
Okay. So I have it down, like, I like that it covers stuff like it's a coming of age movie, the themes of a teenager becoming an adult. Like, a lot of that is great just on its own. Now we're also adding in this like Hulk type of situation where the character turns into this big like monster or something like that. As for a teenager to do it, like the thing with the Hulk, he's always been an adult turning into a monster. This is a teenage girl who's trying to learn how to be like turning into an adult woman, now also turning into a giant red panda. I love that. I thought it was a really good idea. It's, even though, and this is why I was going back to Coco, where I don't connect with the cultural aspects of it. I did connect with the cultural aspects of this. I love everything that was based around this. I was saying this is going to be one of my A's. So we got low A, high B, and then 2 S's and another A. So this would end up probably, I would say this sounds like it should go between Toy Story and Soul.
I'm good with that. I have no problem being the lowest on the movie.
If it bumps Toy Story up to S, then sure.
That's probably yeah.
Yeah, I think
That's the moment that should happen.
Okay.
As much as I like Turning Red and think it should be an S, I'm okay with it bumping Toy Story up.
I'm just slightly bit leery of that, just because there is still one more movie we need to talk about, although I am all in favor of sticking Toy Story in the S tier.
Yeah.
So obviously
the first 3 Toy Stories in the S tier.
And we got all 3 of the Cars in the F tier right now.
It's true.
That's
we did good work.
It's fine.
We're doing the Lord's work tonight with this.
We did good work today. One more movie though.
So one more movie. And whose turn?
Yeah, and
next?
technically this starts with me, but unfortunately I can't rate this film because it's the only one I haven't seen yet.
So yeah, what you say? You haven't had time because of traveling and stuff. So here's the thing.
I am currently in Connecticut. I live in Atlanta. I had to drive here and I worked today. Sorry.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I want to talk about this movie, but those of y'all watching in the chat, if y'all have seen it, let's still be like a little leery of spoilers. I know there's a lot of really good stuff in this movie that I love that they did that I would love to mention and talk about. But for the essence of the fact, this movie's still brand new. It's only been out, 2 days now? And that one of the people here on the panel hasn't seen it yet. I don't want to rob him of like any spoilers. So let's try to be very careful with that. Maybe Clay, just don't look at the chat for a bit.
I can't see the chat. So.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, that works. So yeah, we'll start with Chris then.
Socks is S tier.
Yes. Yes.
Socks is S tier. The rest of the movie for me was nice solid B tier. It was good. I enjoyed it. It does nothing extra special in terms of Pixar, in terms of what they've done before. This is just a nice, fun sci-fi adventure movie, essentially. And I think that's great. I think that's a nice direction that Pixar really hasn't done, like really any kind of, well, WALL-E. outside of WALL-E, Pixar hasn't really done a whole big sci-fi adventure. I guess you also would include Incredibles as sci-fi, but for like a spacefaring thing, I feel like this was kind of unique in what it was doing. Also, that we were taking what we've known before as Buzz Lightyear and kind of adding a new spin to what the character could be and is. I think that's a lot of fun. I think like a lot of people say, I don't need the exposition of this is the movie that Andy saw as they were marketing it and everything. I don't really need that. Just let it exist as its own property, as its own thing. There are some fun stuff. Again, I don't want to dive into it, especially so Clay can see it for the first time in the theater. There's a lot of fun stuff that they do that I really enjoyed, especially towards the beginning of the movie. We'll leave it at that. But Socks is S tier. Socks. Yeah. The rest of the movie, though, itself, I think is good. I think it's fine. I think it was fun. I enjoyed it. It goes in B tier for me.
Okay. Let's see. To me, so I really liked this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I believe, let's see, I said great action adventure, great nods, to like obviously Toy Story, because we got Buzz Lightyear, so there's a lot of like little sprinkles of stuff in there. I like that it's building on the universe, the in-story universe of Buzz Lightyear, like really getting to know him as a character. I liked it. It actually made me wonder what would have happened had this movie came out in 1995. Had me at the age I was, or Chris at the age he was in 1995, would we have liked this movie as much as Andy supposedly did in 1995? That would have been like really great to see. Plus, Socks is awesome. So
I will say, at the risk of being controversial, there are certain aspects of this movie that would not be in a movie in 1995 that exist in a movie nowadays.
Which I thought that was kind of funny. I was like, this movie, like stuff in this movie would not be apparent in 1995 because it just wasn't prevalent. Which is sad, but yeah, I wanted to put this between S or upper A.
You wanted to lean towards S on this?
Yeah, kind of. I really liked this movie. I thought it did a phenomenal job with its story.
Interesting.
I mean, look, my boyfriend would agree with you completely, Robert. Like, it was, so as I said, Turning Red was my Pixar movie of this year. Lightyear was my boyfriend's Pixar movie of this year. He straight up told me, like, I'm only seeing this in theaters because you want to see it. Otherwise, I would have waited for Disney Plus. He loved it. But talking about my opinion, I really liked it. It's so hard because I want to talk spoilers so much. I think you guys hit the nail on the head. It's very much a fun adventure space romp. Without spoiling, I think this is another one that's actually kind of mismarketed in terms of a lot of aspects of it.
Yeah.
And for me, kind of similar in the same vein of WALL-E, because I'm just not the biggest sci-fi fan. I just don't have that same connection. But there is a depth to it and an overarching theme, which is not prevalent at all in the trailers, that it has that I think is very poignant. Without spoiler, without context, my boyfriend and I have called it the anti-Top Gun Maverick. I don't know if that means anything to anyone.
That makes sense.
But yeah, I really enjoy it. Other than that, like, we did love Socks.
Socks.
Socks, I actually had very low expectations of as a character and thought he was going to be super annoying. He's a blast. Everything about him. He steals everything. And voiced by Good Dinosaur director Peter Sohn, so that's fun. But yeah, overall, I think it's very solid. And what's so funny for me is when I was putting in my ranking, it was so hard because of all movies, I had it right next to Toy Story 4. And I was just trying to think which one would be higher. And I think for me, I think Lightyear is the better movie, but I enjoyed Toy Story 4 more. So I'm very firmly, and again, only because everything above it I like better, I had to put it in C.
You're putting it in C?
Yes.
For me, I could see it going before Toy Story 4 in B and putting Toy Story 4 down in C. So I think
That-
either
which-
one of those.
Luckily,
that-
I kind of thought ahead on this.
Of course.
Yeah.
So we got B, like could be upper A. So
Oh.
yeah, I see this possibly. It's going to end up in B.
I do want to mention, I think it's funny they got Chris Evans to voice Buzz here because this character did feel very Captain America to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that
that's-
may have been the point.
Yeah, I also do want to say, like, real quick, something I love about this movie is, and they've made it very clear, this is not the same Buzz as the toy we know, but the original character. And what I really love is he feels like a different character, but I think pays like just enough homage that he still feels like kind of the same person at the same time. I think they handled that beautifully.
Like a toy could easily be based off of this character, and that toy would be the Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story.
Absolutely.
So any preference, like say if this is going to end up in B, any preference on where in B? I mean, we're knocking Toy Story 4 down already, but
I feel okay right after Onward there.
Yeah, okay. Nikki?
I'm good with that. Like I said, I'm not as high, but I'm good with that though.
Clay, once you see this movie, feel free to give your opinion on Twitter if you think that this, wherever it ends up after we shift things around, if we shift things around here, if that's accurate.
So that being said, real quick, before we get into the final rankings and possibly shifting things around, those of y'all watching, hold on for just a second because we're going to give you a preview of what to expect from the Marquee next month, and it's huge.
You thought this one was long.
Oh, yeah. Next month's going to be oof. Anyways, that being said, do we want to make any final adjustments to this? Are we good with where everything's pretty much stationed?
I feel so weird having Toy Story 2 being
It
essentially
is.
ranked as the best.
I
Pixar
would
movie.
still argue for the first Toy Story to be right there at the top of S. I feel like that's the flagship spot for it.
I'm not going to concede to that at all. But I was going to say, I just need a minute to look over this. Can I interest anyone in moving up higher?
You want to move up?
Honestly, I'd be fine with moving up to the number one, but
I would agree to that.
I just feel like it. I really like Toy Story 2, but I just feel like Up feels more like the number one than Toy Story 2 does.
Right, and by all means, I love this top three, even the top four, but I will fight for Up if I can.
I feel like if the first Toy Story isn't in that number one spot, Up feels like a movie of significance that deserves to be in that spot.
Yeah, I also have, this is the most agreed upon love for Toy Story 2 I've ever come across. Most people I know are much higher on 3, but I love them both. I love them both.
Not completely happy with it being that high, but I can understand and I get.
I think there's if we're done with S there, I feel good about all three Toy Stories being up there at the very least, just to have the first Toy Story in because of significance to all of Pixar.
I'm good with that. I am looking.
I would probably want to argue for putting Soul higher than Turning Red.
I would agree with that. I think if we don't have a majority, though, it probably makes sense not to move it. But
I definitely prefer Turning Red to Soul.
I'm with Clay.
Again, though, two of my S are in C and D, but I know I'm not going to get anything from that. So
I don't know if we're going to be able to.
Here's the thing: if you want to bargain anything, I'm not opposed to that either.
I'm just saying because that is there, and I know I'm not going to get anything out of that. I would prefer Turning Red remain,
which is totally fine.
Everyone else good with A?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm actually perfect with A.
I feel okay.
I once again would personally put Inside Out and Coco above Soul, but that's me. I know I'm probably not going to get that.
It's so hard for me that the order of the three of them is just so perfect as it is.
Yeah, I actually do like Soul, Inside Out, Coco in that order.
Yeah, Pete Doctor supremacy.
I didn't have Coco that high, but I think there's significance to it that deserves to be that high. But yeah, I don't think I could put it above the other two.
Okay, so B. The only thing with B, I would put Wall-E at the end of B and scoot the other three up, and I would probably want to swap Onward and Ratatouille.
Ooh.
I'd be fine with Ratatouille going above Wall-E, but none of the others.
I will move.
Granted, I haven't seen Lightyear, but
I
definitely not Onward.
I would definitely put Ratatouille above Wall-E.
Okay.
Based on what we've done here tonight, Clay, I don't think that you would put Lightyear above any of the other movies.
Yeah. Here's the thing, one of the things that I find that's interesting, like in these marquees that we've done, is you really get to know a person's taste in their movies, and it kind of really helps you like understand the person. We've rarely ever, like Clay, I don't think we've done anything with you before. Nikki, we've had very brief interactions with you. But I feel like I know y'all after.
Oh, yeah.
We went through battle together.
Yeah.
We did, but we had such a, for me at least, a great result.
Anything else? Like, I feel like C, I feel is pretty good.
Man, it really hurts me that Wall-E is in B, but whatever.
I mean, wait. Well, before we move on to C, I mean, I think I'm the highest on Incredibles. We're not moving in front of Toy Story 4, are we?
No, I would still keep Toy Story 4 in front of Incredibles.
Okay. Otherwise, I have no problem with C.
I'm fine
D
as well.
I would move Monsters Inc. above Bugs Life. I mean, not Monsters Inc. Monsters U.
Monsters U. I wouldn't.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I actually might move Incredibles 2 to the bottom, but that's me.
I would want to. Me personally, I would probably want to stick Cars 3 above A Bug's Life.
I would.
No,
that's a hard fight. That's gonna be a hard battle.
No.
I feel like
that puts Monsters University in F, and I don't agree with that.
This is very reminiscent. If anyone's ever played Monopoly and you're like offering trades for your deeds or whatever, I'll trade you Boardwalk for like Marvin Gardens. I'm like, no, who's doing that trade?
Well, here's the thing, Robert, and nobody else might agree with that. If you want to swap Cars 3 for Incredibles 2, I'll do that for you. Incredibles 2.
Chris is going to have a hard.
I can't
put Cars 3 above Bugs Life.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Swap them, but then put Bugs Life above Cars 3. Yeah.
Sure.
I'm
fine.
I can't do that.
I
originally started wanting to put Bugs Life in F.
I think though I don't know if I put Incredibles 2 in F as compared to some especially compared to like Monsters University. I don't know if I'd put Incredibles 2 in F.
For the most part, I feel like actually D and F I feel okay about. I mean, I would fight a little for Cars 3, but I mean it's not gonna go that much higher if I was to fight for it. So
no.
There's honestly nothing I feel strongly enough about to move at this point.
I think given that we have like 4 opinions on a bunch of movies here that we have to consider, I think we got a pretty solid location for everything.
I feel this is pretty good. So I'm gonna leave it as is, and that will be our final ranking for the marquee. Again, I'm gonna clean this up a little bit because I know I moved them around, so I like it looking a little more solid. I will clean it up, screenshot it. It will be out on Twitter for everyone's opinions and takes of our takes to comment all through the day tomorrow. I will take pleasure in tagging all 4 of us in that tweet so we can all enjoy on Film Twitter's takes of our takes.
Get ready for the heat.
Fantastic.
Get ready for the heat.
And
hey, go ahead.
If nothing else, this is an amalgamation of what.
Right. It's a shared heat.
It's not 100% for
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's going to look at this and go, "Wow, Robert's take is just complete crap." Like no, there. I don't feel like there was really. I'm ready for Dan. Yeah, Dan Merle. Was it Dan Merle's reply on our Top Gun that
he didn't like where War of the Worlds was placed, and I kind of agree with him. But
that's right. So I'm eager to see what the takes are on this are going to be tomorrow. So tomorrow should be an interesting day for all of us involved. So when y'all see everyone who's watching right now, please do me a favor and retweet that so we get some more eyes on it. I just want to see what's going to happen with it. Anyways, so we are done with the marquee portion. I'm going to go ahead and have Carl shut down the marquee.
Good job, Carl. That was really quick.
He puts all that back real fast. Like I wish I would put my stuff away that fast. So, real quick before we end the show and we get to the plugs or whatnot, I want to make sure everyone understands something that we're doing for the marquee next month. This is going to be massively huge because we're not doing one like over 3.5 hour long marquee. We're not even doing just one marquee. We're not doing 2 marquees. Next month will be 3 marquees, all on the same subject.
Help me.
We are going to be tier ranking.
So real quick before we say what it is, we like the idea of the summer months, July and August, being specifically set aside to celebrate summer in all of its glory and big blockbustery style. And so I think that we might, in the future, every July, just have a triple header or a quadruple header marquee of some sort. I'm putting this out there as what we might be able to do. August, we might do something big blockbuster also related, but those are the summer months. We want to celebrate those. So this July, what are we doing?
This will be the largest Marvel Cinematic Universe tier ranking ever. We will be obviously we're not going to do all the movies at once because this one was 3.5 hours and we're going to be here all night if we do all the Marvel movies at once. We are breaking this up. We will go in more in depth in this in the future, but basically the way it's being broken up is on July 9th we're going to do, what was it, like 2008 to 2000 through 2017 I believe. July 16th will be 2018 up to current, and including the Marvel TV shows, the Disney Plus shows.
So both Thor: Love and Thunder and Miss Marvel will be included in that.
Yeah. On the 30th, we are going to take the highest ranked out of the previous 2. So everything, I believe right now we're looking at everything that ends up in S or A tier. We are going to rank again.
It might even be S, A, and B.
Possibly. We'll see how it shakes out. But on the 30th, we are going to tier rank everything that was in, like, say, S, A, and B out of the 2 previous tiers. So we are doing, like, the ultimate ranking of this. And then going forward, periodically, we will come back and revisit the Marvel Cinematic Universe for tier ranking as more movies and TV shows come out. We will incorporate them into the current running tier ranking done by that 3rd episode. Again, we'll explain this in more detail, probably like on tagline and whatnot, but that is what we are looking at doing for next month. Massively huge. Hopefully won't be as long because we're breaking them down. But yeah, there's still going to be a lot to talk about. Anyways, let's go around and do plugs real quick before we end the show. Nikki, where can we find you?
So you guys can find me on Instagram, Twitter, variety of social platforms at EggLordNikki. I'm not super active myself, though. However, my wonderful boyfriend, Pat, has his own YouTube channel, The Montyverse, where he does a lot of comic content. Marvel, of all things, of course, is one of his specialties. And we do film. I'm on there as well, doing a lot of trailer reactions. So check us out there.
And Clay.
You can find me on most social media things. Either on Twitter, I am at Flying Cow. That's my personal. I also my podcast stuff is all at the Flying Cow Pod. and I do a whole bunch of stuff. I host a movie trivia show specifically about Disney Pixar trivia. Nikki was our first champion of the league. It is called Movie Battles, and like I said, it is specifically Disney Pixar movie trivia. Come check us out there. I also host a podcast. Yes, Vernon, moo. Yes, Jeremy. Yes. So I also host a podcast where basically I do a whole bunch of different shows talking about television and movies, and hoping to increase my output very soon. That is the flying cow. That is, yeah.
So after hearing that, you guys might understand why we had both of them on this show.
Yeah. Anyways, let's see. For us, you can follow us at the Cinefanatics MLP on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me personally at Robert Adams MLP on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. And Chris,
you can follow me at Chris Adams MLP on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd, as well as twitch.tv/Chris Adams MLP, where I stream 4 days a week, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We will be streaming tomorrow and having a lot of fun there. So come visit, come follow, come do all the fun stuff over there.
Yeah. Guys, this has been a super long episode. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you, Nikki and Clay. Thank you for being on the show. It was great having you here. Great opinions. I'm glad that we got y'all on for this because that was a lot of fun. A lot of good discussion and talk over those. Everyone in the chat who has been watching, thank you for being here. I know this was a lot of talking about Pixar, a lot of personal connections, feelings and emotions, but we all managed to get through it all together, and I feel like we're all better people on the other side of this. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for being a part of it, and we will see y'all at some point in the future. I need to sleep, so
I don't feel better for my opinion, Luca.
Good night, everyone. Have a great evening.
Bye.